My name is Ethan Walker. For 5 years, I worked at Apex Horizon Group, one of the fastest growing technology companies in the United States. That I was a senior project manager in the strategic development department. That title sounded impressive. The reality was different. Inside Apex Horizon, I was the person everyone remembered only when something went wrong, when a project succeeded. Executives took the credit when a project failed. My phone was the first one to ring. And the person standing above everyone else in the company was Victoria Sterling, the woman everyone called the Ice Queen. Victoria was the CEO of Apex Horizon. She was 32 years old, brilliant, ruthless, and impossible to read. In 3 years, she doubled the company's market value. She removed 7 executives who failed to meet expectations. She rejected a $300 million acquisition offer because she believed the other company was undervaluing Apex Horizon. People admired her. People feared her. Nobody knew what she was thinking, especially me, because for the last 6 months, I had become the person closest to one of the company's biggest failures. The Horizon X project, a $50 million artificial intelligence platform that was supposed to become Apex Horizon's next breakthrough. And now, it was falling apart. The morning it happened, I walked into the office and immediately noticed something was different. People stopped talking when I passed. Two coworkers who usually asked me about project updates suddenly looked away. My assistant, Emily Carter, approached me with a worried expression. Ethan. I looked at her. What's wrong? She hesitated. I heard something. I put my coffee on my desk. What did you hear? She lowered her voice. There's a meeting scheduled with the CEO at 10 a.m. I frowned. About Horizon X? She didn't answer immediately. That was enough. I already knew. Who told you? Daniel's assistant. Daniel Brooks was the vice president of operations. He had never liked me. Not because I did bad work. Actually, it was the opposite. I had solved problems that his department created more than once. But Daniel didn't like anyone who made him look bad, especially someone without a powerful title. Emily looked nervous. Ethan, people are saying the board wants someone to take responsibility for the project failure. I smiled slightly. Someone? She looked away. Your name came up. Of course it did. I wasn't surprised. In companies like Apex Horizon, the person who worked closest to the problem was usually the easiest person to blame. I opened my laptop. The Horizon X project report was still on my screen. 3 months ago, the project was ahead of schedule. Then suddenly, a critical software component was changed without my approval. The new system caused instability. The launch was delayed, and somehow, the blame landed on me. I had already submitted evidence showing that the changes came from another department. But nobody wanted to discuss evidence. They wanted a name. A sacrifice. And apparently, I was the perfect choice. At 9:55 a.m. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Victoria Sterling. My entire department went silent when they saw the name. I answered. Mr. Walker. Her voice was calm, cold, professional. Come to my office. No explanation. No greeting. Nothing. I asked this about Horizon X. A pause. Then she said, bring your employee identification. My fingers stopped moving. Employee identification. That was not something a CEO normally asked for. My mind immediately went to one possibility: termination. She wanted me to hand over my badge. 5 years at Apex Horizon, 5 years of working late nights, 5 years of fixing problems nobody else wanted to touch. And now, it was ending with a phone call that lasted less than 10 seconds. Understood. I hung up. Emily looked at me. Ethan, I grabbed my notebook. It's okay. Are you sure? I nodded. I've seen this happen before. She looked angry. You don't deserve this. I smiled. Deserving something and getting something are two different things. Then I walked toward Victoria's office. The entire floor watched me. I could hear whispers. Is he getting fired? I heard the board is furious. Daniel finally got what he wanted. I ignored them. 5 years in corporate life taught me one thing: never react before you know the truth. But when I reached Victoria's office door, even I had to admit, for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't completely sure what was waiting for me. I knocked. Come in. I opened the door. Victoria was sitting behind her desk. She was wearing a black suit, her blonde hair tied back neatly. Her expression was exactly what everyone expected: cold, controlled, unreadable. She looked at me, closed the door. I did. Then she pointed to the chair. Sit. I sat down. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. That was unusual. Victoria was famous for making decisions quickly. She never wasted time. Finally, She picked up a document from her desk, and my eyes immediately locked onto it. The company logo was printed on the top, Apex Horizon Group. Below it was a red seal that my heart sank. Termination documents usually had that seal. Victoria noticed my expression. You think you know what this is? It wasn't a question. I looked at her. Am I wrong? She didn't answer. Instead, she pushed the document toward me. Open it. I didn't move. Before I do, I want to ask one question. Victoria raised her eyes. Go ahead. I asked this because of Horizon X. Her expression changed slightly. Only for a second, but I noticed. No, that answer surprised me. No, she leaned back. This is not about the project. Then what is it about? She looked directly at me. Ethan, open the document. Something about her voice made me hesitate. I reached out. My hand touched the envelope. I expected to see a termination notice. A legal statement. A final paycheck. A polite corporate message saying, "Thank you for your service." But when I opened the document, I froze. The first page wasn't a termination letter. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't anything related to my job. It was a handwritten letter. And the first sentence made me stop breathing. Ethan Walker, I have loved you for 3 years. I looked up. Victoria was watching me. The woman who had fired executives without hesitation. The woman who had never shown emotion in front of the board was now waiting silently for my reaction. I looked back at the paper. Then at her. I don't understand. For the first time since I knew her, Victoria Sterling looked nervous. I know. I stared at the words again. A love letter. From my CEO at .3 years. My mind couldn't process it because there was one problem that I had. Spent 5 years working under Victoria Sterling. And in those 5 years, she had never once acted like she saw me as anything more than an employee. I looked at her. Why? Her eyes stayed on mine. Because I was afraid. The answer shocked me more than the letter. Victoria Sterling. Afraid? Impossible. Afraid of what? She was silent. Then she said, "Afraid that if I told you the truth, you would leave." Before I could respond, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Victoria's expression instantly changed. The CEO returned. Cold, powerful, untouchable. "Come in." The door opened. Her assistant, Michael Reed, walked in. His face was serious. A mess. "Sterling." Victoria looked at him. "What happened?" Michael glanced at me, then back at her. "The board meeting has started." Victoria frowned. It wasn't scheduled until noon. I know. Michael hesitated. "But Daniel Brooks requested an emergency session." My expression changed. Victoria noticed. "What else?" Michael took a breath. "They're accusing Ethan Walker of unauthorized data transfer." The room became silent. I looked at Victoria. A few minutes earlier, she had given me a love letter. Now someone was trying to destroy my career. Michael continued. "The board wants him suspended immediately." Victoria slowly stood up. "No." Michael looked surprised. "A mess." "Sterling." I said no. Her voice was calm, but everyone knew that tone. The same tone she used before destroying competitors. She picked up the document from the desk, the love letter. Then she looked at me. "Ethan." I stood. "Yes?" She walked toward the door. "Come with me." I followed her, but before we reached the meeting room, I stopped. "Victoria." She looked back. "Why are you helping me?" For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she said, "Because I should have protected you sooner." And that was when I realized something. The document on her desk wasn't just a confession. It was a warning. Someone inside Apex Horizon had been preparing to destroy me. And Victoria Sterling, the woman everyone believed had no emotions, had been protecting me all along. But I still didn't know the biggest secret. The reason she wrote that letter was not because she wanted to confess her love. It was because she knew something was about to happen that could change both of our lives forever. I followed Victoria into the emergency boardroom. The entire walk there, nobody spoke. That alone told me how serious the situation was. Apex Horizon. Silence usually meant one thing. Someone powerful was about to lose. When the elevator doors opened, several executives were already waiting outside the conference room. Daniel Brooks was among them. The moment he saw me standing beside Victoria, his expression changed. Only slightly, but I noticed he expected me to walk in alone. He expected me to look defeated. Instead, I was standing beside the CEO. Daniel adjusted his tie and forced a smile. Ms. Sterling. Victoria didn't acknowledge the greeting. "Why was an emergency board meeting called without my approval?" Daniel stepped forward. "Because this situation cannot wait." His eyes moved toward me. "Ethan Walker has been involved in a serious security breach." I looked at him. "That's your accusation?" Daniel folded his arms. The evidence is clear that Victoria's expression remained cold. Then we will review the evidence. She opened the door. Now, everyone entered that I sat on the opposite side of the table. Daniel sat next to 3 board members. That told me everything. This wasn't just about a security breach. This was planned. The chairman of the board, Richard Coleman, looked at me. Ethan, you understand why you're here? I nodded. Daniel believes I leaked company data. Richard looked uncomfortable that he believes there is evidence connecting you to the incident. That I looked at Daniel. And do you? Daniel didn't hesitate. That I do. Victoria turned toward him. Careful. Daniel T looked at her. I'm only stating facts. No, Victoria's voice was sharp. That you're stating an opinion. Daniel smiled. Then let's look at the facts. He placed a folder on the table. Inside were printed documents. 3 weeks ago. Confidential Horizon X files were accessed from Ethan Walker's account. He pushed the documents forward. The same files later appeared in the hands of one of our competitors. The room became tense. Richard looked at me. Is that true? I didn't answer immediately, because technically, yes, the access record showed my account. But I knew I didn't do it. No, Daniel immediately interrupted. Oh, you're saying our security system is wrong. I'm saying someone used my account. Daniel laughed. Convenient answer. I looked at him. Is that what you think? I think people should take responsibility for their actions. That sentence almost made me smile, because Daniel had spent years avoiding responsibility. I leaned forward. Interesting coming from you. His expression changed. What does that mean? It means Horizon X failed after your department changed the core algorithm without approval. The room became quiet. Daniel's face darkened. Be careful. I have the approval records. I looked at Victoria. I submitted them 2 months ago. She nodded. I saw them. Daniel turned toward her. Victoria, don't let personal feelings influence business decisions. That sentence changed the atmosphere. Everyone looked at Victoria. Personal feelings. He was implying something. That Victoria's expression became colder. Explain. Daniel smiled. You wrote Ethan a personal letter. The entire room froze. My hand tightened. How did he know? Victoria didn't react, but I saw her eyes change. You accessed my private documents? Daniel shrugged. The CEO's office isn't as private as you think. Victoria stood. That is a serious accusation. No, Daniel looked confident. It's proof. He pointed at me. You're protecting him because you have feelings for him. Nobody spoke. The accusation was direct, cruel, and calculated. I looked at Victoria. For the first time, I saw anger on her face. Not because he exposed her feelings, because he used them as a weapon. Daniel continued. The board cannot allow personal relationships to affect company decisions. Richard looked uncomfortable. Victoria, she interrupted. No, everyone looked at her. She walked to the center of the room. Let's be clear. Her voice was calmed. Why personal feelings have nothing to do with this investigation. Then she looked at Daniel. But your attempt to manipulate evidence does. Daniel's confidence disappeared slightly. What are you talking about? Victoria turned to Michael. Show them. Michael connected his laptop to the screen. A security report appeared at 2:14 a.m. on September 18th. Horizon X files were accessed. Daniel nodded. Exactly. Victoria continued. From Ethan's account. Daniel smiled. Yes, but there's something you forgot. She clicked. Another record appeared. The account was accessed using a company device. Daniel frowned. So? The device belonged to the operations department. The room changed. Daniel stopped smiling. Victoria continued. The specific laptop used belonged to your executive assistant. Silence. Nobody moved. Daniel looked at the screen. That's impossible. Michael spoke. We verified the device ID 3 times. Daniel looked angry. This proves nothing. Victoria looked at him. It proves someone from your department accessed Ethan's account. Daniel stood. You're blaming me. No, Victoria's voice became colder. I'm asking why you are so certain Ethan is guilty when the evidence points closer to you. Nobody spoke. The chairman looked at Daniel. Oh, you have an explanation? Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out for the first time. The man who always controlled the room looked nervous, but I knew this wasn't over. People like Daniel didn't lose without another move. And I was right, because 5 minutes later, he played his final card. Daniel took out another document. I have one more piece of evidence. Victoria looked at him. What is it? Daniel placed it on the table. This. I looked down. My name was printed on the document. My signature was at the bottom. My approval. My authorization. For a second, I couldn't speak. Because I recognized IT was the approval form for the Horizon X software update, the same update that caused the project failure. Daniel looked at everyone. Ethan personally approved the change. The board members looked at me. I stared at the paper. This was impossible, because I had never signed that document. Someone had forged my signature, but proving that would take time. And Daniel knew it. He smiled. Now what? Nobody answered, because this was the kind of evidence that destroyed careers, even innocent people. Victoria looked at the document, then at me. Ethan. I looked at her. I didn't sign that. I know. Her answer came immediately. Too immediately. Daniel noticed. You know, Victoria didn't respond. He smiled. Interesting. The chairman looked confused. Victoria. How can you know? She didn't look away from me. Because Ethan doesn't make mistakes like this. Daniel laughed. That's not evidence. No. Victoria picked up the document. But this is. She turned the paper over, then placed it in front of everyone. There is one problem. Daniel frowned. What problem? Victoria pointed at the signature. Ethan Walker's signature has a specific pattern. She looked at me. His signature always ends with a long line. Then she looked at Daniel. This one doesn't. Daniel's face changed. A small crack appeared in his perfect performance. Victoria continued. You forged it. The room exploded. Everyone started talking. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. That's ridiculous. Victoria didn't move. Is it? She looked at Michael. Bring the handwriting analysis report. Michael nodded. Daniel's face became pale, because he understood. This meeting wasn't going the way he planned. But then Richard received a phone call. He answered. A few seconds later. His expression changed. Wait. Everyone looked at him. What happened? Richard slowly lowered the phone. The investors. He looked at Victoria. They are demanding an explanation. Victoria frowned. About what? Richard looked at me. About Ethan Walker. The room became silent again. I stood. What do they want? Richard swallowed. They want you removed immediately. Daniel smiled. The confidence returned. Looks like the board isn't the only problem. Victoria looked at him. No. Then she looked at me. It's bigger than that. I understood. Someone wasn't just trying to get me fired. They wanted to create a situation where Victoria had no choice but to abandon me. Because if she protected me, she would lose the company. And if she protected the company, she would lose me. Daniel thought he had trapped us. But he made one mistake. He underestimated Victoria Sterling. And he underestimated me. Because 5 years ago, before I became a project manager at Apex Horizon, I was involved in creating something nobody knew about. Something that could destroy the people trying to destroy us. And I had never used it. Until now. I looked at Victoria. She looked back at me. For the first time, I realized something. This was no longer just about my job. Someone had carefully built a trap around me. The fake document, the leaked files, the accusation, the board pressure. Everything happened at the same time because they wanted one result. They wanted Victoria to choose the company. Or me. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He thought he had won.ms. Sterling. The investors are losing confidence. The board cannot ignore this. Victoria didn't answer immediately. She picked up the forged document again. Then she looked at Daniel. You planned this. Daniel smiled. If that's a serious accusation, SO was yours. She placed the document down. You used a company laptop from your department to access confidential files. You created a fake approval document. Then you attempted to use the board to remove Ethan. Daniel shook his head. You have no proof. Victoria looked at Michael. Not yet. Michael immediately understood that. He opened another file on the screen. This is the access record from the security system. A new report appeared. Daniel's expression changed. That information is confidential. Victoria looked at him. Exactly. The room became quiet. Michael continued. The person who accessed Ethan's account needed executive-level clearance. He paused. Only 8 people in the company have that level of access. Everyone looked around the table. Daniel's face became colder. And Michael continued. 7 people have confirmed locations during the time of the breach. He clicked. Only one person has no verified record. Daniel didn't move. But everyone knew the answer. Richard looked at him. Daniel. Daniel stood immediately. This proves nothing. Victoria looked at him. No. She walked closer. But it proves something important. She pointed at the screen. You were so focused on blaming Ethan that you forgot to protect yourself. Nobody spoke. Daniel stared at her. You are making a mistake. Victoria's voice was calm. I make many decisions. She looked at me. But protecting Ethan is not one of them. That sentence surprised everyone. including me. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. Daniel was removed from the investigation. The board agreed to review all evidence before making any decision, but I knew this was only the beginning. Someone powerful was behind Daniel, someone who could influence investors, someone who knew exactly how to attack Apex Horizon. After everyone left, I stayed behind. Victoria was still standing near the table that I looked at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" She turned. "About what?" "The investigation." Silence that I could have prepared. "I know." "Then why?" Victoria looked down for a moment. Then she answered, "Because I knew you." That I frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you would have tried to handle everything alone." That I didn't respond, because she was right. Victoria walked toward me. "You always do that, Dio. What? You solve everyone's problems." She looked at me. "But you never let anyone solve yours." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I remembered the letter, the one sitting on her desk, the one that changed everything. "Victoria." She stopped. "Why did you write that?" Her expression softened. "The letter?" I nodded. "Yes." She was silent for several seconds. Then she said, "Because I thought today might be the last chance I had." That I looked at her. "Last chance?" She nodded. "That I knew someone was coming after you, and you thought I would leave." No, her voice became quieter. "That I thought you would hate me." That answer surprised me. "Why would I hate you?" "Because I kept something from you." She looked at me. For 3 years, before I could ask what she meant. Her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her expression changed. "What happened?" She listened. Then her face became serious. "Are you sure?" A pause. Then, "Send it to me." She ended the call. "What is it?" She looked at me. "The person behind Daniel has been found." "Who?" Victoria didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "Someone from my family." I froze. Her family. The Sterling family was one of the most powerful business families in America, and if someone from that family was involved, this was much bigger than a workplace dispute. Victoria picked up the document from the table, the love letter. She handed it back to me. "Keep it." I looked at her. "Why?" She met my eyes. "Because no matter what happens next," she paused, "that I want you to remember one thing." "What?" "I didn't choose you because you were useful." Her voice was steady. "I chose you because you were the only person who treated me like Victoria. Not CEO, not billionaire, not the Ice Queen. Just Victoria." I held the letter, and for the first time in 5 years, I realized the woman everyone feared might be the only person who truly believed in me. But I also understood something else. If someone inside her family was trying to destroy me, then protecting Victoria would be much harder than protecting myself. And I was about to discover that the biggest battle of my life had never been about my career, that it was about the woman who had secretly loved me for 3 years. The next morning, I arrived at Apex Horizon earlier than usual, not because I had more work, because I knew something had changed. Yesterday, I walked into Victoria Sterling's office believing I was about to lose my job, that I thought I would leave the company carrying a box of my belongings. Instead, I walked out with a secret. Victoria Sterling, the woman who controlled a company worth billions of dollars, had written me a love letter, and someone inside her own family was trying to destroy me. That combination was something I never expected. When I entered the office, people immediately noticed me. The whispers started again, but this time, they sounded different. "Ethan is still here." I heard Daniel's investigation failed. The CEO personally protected him. I ignored the conversations. 5 years in corporate life taught me something important. People don't respect you because you work hard. They respect you when they realize they cannot push you around anymore. I reached my desk and found a folder waiting for me. No named, no message. Just a black folder. I opened it carefully. Inside were copies of internal documents, my security records, the forged approval. Daniel's communication history, and one handwritten note. "Stop digging. Ethan, you don't know who you're fighting." I stared at the sentence. Someone was scared. That was the only explanation. People who were confident didn't send warnings. They sent threats after they lost. I picked up my phone and called Michael Reed. Victoria's executive assistant answered immediately. "Ethan, did you send something to my desk?" "No." I looked at the folder. "Someone did." There was silence. Then Michael lowered his voice. "Don't touch anything else." "Why?" "Because Victoria is looking for whoever accessed your office." I frowned. My office? "Yes." "When?" "Last night." That surprised me. "Someone entered my office after midnight?" "Yes." I looked around. Nobody was watching me, but suddenly, I felt like someone had been watching me for a long time. "Michael." "Yes?" "How long has Victoria known about this?" Another silence. Too long. Michael, finally. He answered, longer than you think, before I could ask more. He ended the call. That bothered me, because it confirmed something. Victoria had been fighting this battle before I even knew there was a war point 10 minutes later. I received another message from Victoria.my office. Now.no explanation.no greeting. Exactly like yesterday, but this time, I didn't feel nervous that I felt curious. When I entered her office, Victoria was standing by the window. She didn't turn around immediately. You found the folder that I stopped. You knew? Yes. Then why didn't you tell me? She turned. Because I wanted to know if they would try again. I looked at her. You used me as bait? Her expression changed. No, she walked closer. I protected you. By letting someone enter my office. No, her voice became serious. By finding out who was willing to risk exposing themselves. I crossed my arms. And she looked at the folder in my hand. Now we know. Who? Victoria didn't answer. Instead, she handed me a tablet that on the screen was a name. Alexander Sterling. I recognized the last name. Everyone did. Victoria's older brother, the heir of the Sterling family, the man who wants your company. Victoria nodded. He's not trying to take my company. I looked at her. Then what does he want? She answered quietly. Control. I understood. Power, money, influence. The usual reasons people destroyed each other. But there was something Victoria wasn't saying. I noticed. You know something else? She looked at me. Ethan. No, I stepped closer. Every time you hide something, you think nobody notices. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I don't hide things. I almost laughed at. You're the CEO of a billion-dollar company. Your entire job is hiding information. For the first time, a small smile appeared on her face. Very small, almost impossible to see. But I saw it. You are different when you argue. How? You forget who I am. I looked at her. That's because you forget who you are. She was silent. I continued. Everyone sees Victoria Sterling, the CEO, but I see you. The smile disappeared, but her expression softened. Then she walked back to her desk. There is something you need to know. What? Alexander has requested a shareholder meeting. I frowned. When? Tomorrow. That fast? She nodded. He wants to remove me as CEO. I looked at her. And the board? Divided. How many support him? 47%. I understood immediately that he was close. Very close. If he gained a few more votes, Victoria would lose control. And if he removes you? Victoria looked at me. I lose my position. I waited. She didn't continue. I asked. And me? Her expression changed. What do you mean? If he becomes CEO, what happens to me? Victoria didn't answer. That was the answer. I smiled slightly. He would fire me. Probably. Because of yesterday. Because of me. I looked at her. Victoria Sterling was not afraid of losing power. She was afraid of losing me. And that was the most dangerous thing about her feelings. Because powerful people had enemies. But powerful people with something to lose. They became targets. A knock interrupted us. Michael entered. A mess. Sterling. Victoria looked at him. What? The board members have arrived. Already? Yes. He hesitated. And there's one more thing. Victoria waited. Alexander Sterling is here. The room became silent. Victoria looked at me. Then at Michael. Let him in. I prepared myself. Because yesterday, I thought Daniel Brooks was my biggest problem. I was wrong. Daniel was only a piece. The real enemy had finally walked into the game. And his last name was Sterling. The door opened. Alexander Sterling walked in. I had seen his name countless times in business news. He was 40 years old. The oldest son of the Sterling family. And the person many investors believed would eventually control Apex Horizon. Unlike Victoria, Alexander didn't need to prove that he was powerful. He walked into every room believing it already belonged to him. He looked at me first. Not Victoria. Dummy. That told me everything. Ethan Walker. His voice carried a strange kind of confidence. We finally meet. I didn't stand. Have we met before? He smiled. No. He looked around Victoria's office. But I've heard a lot about you. Victoria stepped forward. Alexander. He turned toward her. Sister. The way he said that word made it clear. There was no family affection. There. Only competition. Victoria's expression didn't change. What do you want? Alexander smiled. Straight to the point. I always liked that about you. Answer the question. He glanced at me again. I came to discuss the future of Apex Horizon. Victoria crossed her arms. There is a shareholder meeting tomorrow. Yes. Then why are you here? Because I wanted to give you a chance to. I almost laughed. A chance. People like Alexander always use polite words to describe threats. Victoria didn't react. A chance to do what? Step down peacefully. The room became quiet. I watched Victoria carefully. Most people would have reacted, anger, shock, fear, but Victoria didn't. She simply asked, "Why?" Alexander walked closer. "Because the company needs stability." Meaning? Meaning investors are losing confidence. That he looked at me. And certain decisions are creating unnecessary risks. That I understood. He wasn't talking about business. He was talking about me. Victoria noticed too. "You think Ethan is the problem." Alexander smiled. "That I think emotions are the problem." That sentence hit harder than I expected because it was the same argument Daniel used. The same strategy. Attack Victoria's feelings. Make people believe she was weak. Alexander continued. "You spent 3 years building a company nobody thought could succeed. You made difficult decisions. You removed people you cared about when necessary." That he paused. "But now you're protecting one employee." That Victoria's eyes became colder. "He's not just an employee." Alexander looked amused. "There it is." I frowned. "What does that mean?" Alexander looked at me. "You really don't know?" I didn't answer. T. smiled. "Interesting." Victoria stepped between us. "Leave." Alexander ignored her. "Ethan, do you know how many people would love to be in your position?" I looked at him. "What position?" "The man who made Victoria Sterling lose control." I stared at him. "I don't control her. Everyone thinks that." He laughed softly. "But they are wrong." Then he looked at Victoria. "Because she controls everything except you." Victoria's expression changed. Only slightly, but enough. Alexander saw it. He smiled. "That's why you're dangerous." I stood. "I think we're done here." Alexander looked surprised. "You think you can end this conversation?" "No." I picked up the folder from the desk. "I think Victoria can." His smile disappeared for the first time. He looked at me seriously. Not like an employee, like a threat. Victoria noticed. "Ethan." I looked at her. "Yes?" "Wait outside." I understood. This was a family battle. I left the office, but I didn't go far. Not because I wanted to listen, because I knew Alexander. People like him never came without a plan. 20 minutes later, Victoria came out. Her expression was calm. Too calm. I immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" She looked at me. "The board meeting tomorrow is no longer about removing me." I frowned. "Then what?" "They want me to choose." "Choose what?" She looked directly at me. "Between keeping control of Apex Horizon," a pause, "and keeping you." I stared at her. "They actually said that?" "Yes." "Who?" "Alexander convinced several shareholders that my relationship with you creates a conflict of interest." I shook my head. "This is ridiculous." "I know." "Then fight it." Victoria looked at me. "I will." But she didn't answer. That was when I understood. There was a reason she was hesitating. "What is the risk?" Victoria was silent. Then she said, "If I fight for you tomorrow." I waited. "The board may vote me out." I looked at her. "And if you don't?" "I lose you." The answer was immediate. No hesitation. That surprised me. Because Victoria Sterling had spent her entire career choosing the company, choosing results, choosing power, but now she was standing here telling me she might lose everything because of me. That I didn't know what to say to so I asked the only question that mattered. "Why me?" Victoria looked away. For a moment. She didn't look like a CEO. She looked like someone who had carried a secret for too long, because everyone else saw what I owned. She looked back at me. "You saw who I was." I didn't speak. She continued. "When I became CEO, everyone wanted something. Investors wanted money. Executives wanted power. Employees wanted promotions. But you..." She stopped. "You never asked me for anything." I remembered the first year I worked under her, the first time we met. Everyone rushed to impress her. Everyone tried to make themselves important. I didn't. I just did my job. And apparently, that was what she remembered. Victoria took a breath. 3 years ago, I wanted to tell you." "Tell me what?" "How I felt." "Then why didn't you?" Her answer was quiet. "Because you told me you were leaving." I froze. I never said that. "You did." I thought carefully. Then I remembered. 2 years ago, during a company restructuring, I had joked with my team. I said, "If this company keeps changing like this, maybe I'll quit someday." I had forgotten. She didn't. "You remembered that?" Victoria nodded. "I thought you wanted a life away from me." I looked at her. "Victoria," before I could finish, Michael suddenly ran toward us. His face was pale. Ms. Sterling. Victoria immediately turned. "What happened?" The shareholder report was leaked. Her expression changed. "Which report?" "The private one." My stomach dropped. "What private report?" Michael looked at me. "The one about Ethan." I felt cold. "What does it say?" Michael hesitated, then handed Victoria the tablet. She read it. Her face became completely expressionless. That was worse than anger. I stepped closer. What happened? She looked at me. Ethan, what? Her voice was low. Someone is trying to prove that you never deserved your position. I frowned. What? She turned the tablet toward me. The headline was already spreading online. Apex Horizon employee accused of using CEO relationship for corporate advancement. Below it was my photo.my name, and a story claiming I had manipulated Victoria to gain power inside the company. I stared at the screen. They weren't just trying to fire me anymore. They were trying to destroy my reputation. Alexander wanted everyone to believe one thing, that I wasn't the man Victoria chose. I was just a weakness someone used against her. I looked at Victoria. What do we do? For the first time. She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, we fight. I nodded. But she added one more sentence. A sentence that changed everything. Because tomorrow, I won't only be fighting for my company. She looked at me. I'll be fighting for the truth. And at that moment, I knew the battle for Apex Horizon had officially begun. The article went viral in less than 2 hours. That was how modern corporate warfare worked. Nobody needed weapons. Nobody needed to walk into an office and threaten someone. A single headline could destroy a person's reputation. A single rumor could erase years of hard work. And that was exactly what they were trying to do to me. Apex Horizon employee uses CEO relationship for rapid promotion. I read the headline again. Then I looked at the comments. Thousands of people had already made their judgment. They didn't know me. They didn't know what happened. They didn't care. They only saw a simple story. A powerful female CEO. A regular male employee. A suspicious relationship. That was enough? Victoria stood beside me, watching my expression. You don't have to read them. I put the tablet down. I need to know what they're saying. Why? Because whoever did this wants me angry. She looked at me. And if I react emotionally, they win. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she nodded. You're right. That was something I never expected to hear from Victoria Sterling, the Ice Queen, agreeing with me. Michael walked in. We have a problem. Victoria looked up. What now? The investors are requesting an emergency conference call. When? 30 minutes. I looked at Victoria. They want an explanation. She nodded. Yes. Michael hesitated. There is another issue. What? The board members are asking Ethan to leave the call. I frowned. Of course they are. Victoria looked at Michael. No. Michael looked surprised. MS. Sterling, Ethan stays. But the board, I don't care what they want. Her voice was cold. He stays. I looked at her. Victoria, she turned. What? You don't need to fight every battle for me. Her expression changed. Yes, I do. The answer came immediately. I was surprised. She continued. Because this happened because of me. No. It happened because people know you matter to me. I looked away. Because that was the truth. Her feelings had become a weapon, and I hated that. Not because of me, because she was the one being attacked. 30 minutes later, we joined the investor conference call. 7 major investors appeared on screen. None of them looked happy. The first person to speak was Robert Hayes. One of Apex Horizon's largest shareholders. Victoria. We need answers. She remained calm. About what? He looked at me. About him. I leaned back. Not because I wasn't angry, because I wanted to hear. Robert continued. There are reports suggesting Mr. Walker's position inside Apex Horizon is influenced by personal connections. Victoria answered immediately. False. Robert frowned. We need facts. Not emotion. Victoria's eyes became colder. Then let's discuss facts. She opened a document. Ethan Walker joined Apex Horizon 5 years ago. She looked at the investors. His performance records are available. She clicked. 23 successful projects. 4 major cost reductions. 3 patents contributed. The highest employee evaluation scores in his department for 4 consecutive years. Nobody spoke. Victoria continued. If you believe he received unfair treatment, explain which part. Silence. Then another investor spoke. But he is still involved in a personal relationship with the CEO. Victoria didn't hesitate. Then I will remove myself from decisions involving him. I looked at her. She continued. But removing Ethan from the company is not an option. Robert frowned. Why? Victoria looked at him. Because he is valuable. The investor shook his head. To the company? A pause. Then, yes. But I knew she almost said something else. Everyone knew. The call continued for another 20 minutes. By the end, the investors didn't remove Victoria, but they demanded one thing: an independent investigation. And during that investigation, I was temporarily removed from all major projects. the moment the call ended. I laughed. Victoria looked at me. Why are you laughing? Because they think this is punishment. And I think they just gave me time. She frowned. Time for what? I looked at her to find out who started this. She walked closer. Ethan. What? Promise me something. What? Don't do this alone. I looked at her. For 5 years, I had handled everything alone. Every problem, every failure, every unfair decision. That was how I survived. But Victoria was asking me to stop. I nodded. Fine. She looked surprised. Fine. I promised. A small smile appeared, then disappeared quickly. Good. But she didn't know something that I had already started looking into the attack, and what I found shocked me, because the person who leaked the article wasn't from outside the company. It was someone inside Apex Horizon, someone with access to confidential employee information, someone who knew details about me that even Victoria didn't know. And the deeper I investigated, the closer I got to a secret I had hidden for 5 years, a secret that could completely change how everyone saw me. Because the truth was, I was never just a project manager. Not even close. I spent the next 6 hours doing something I hadn't done in years. I stopped acting like an employee. I started thinking like the person I used to be. Before Apex Horizon, before the title on my office door, before people knew me as Ethan Walker, Senior Project Manager. There was another version of me. A version nobody inside the company knew existed. I sat in my apartment that night, looking through old files stored on an encrypted drive. 5 years. That was how long I had kept this secret. 5 years since I walked away from everything I built. The reason was simple: that I didn't want power anymore, that I didn't want investors, that I didn't want board meetings, that I didn't want people shaking my hand because of my name. I wanted a normal life. And for a while, I had it. Until Victoria Sterling entered my world. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Victoria. I answered. You're still awake. Her voice came immediately. So are you? I smiled slightly. How did you know? Because you always work when you're worried. I looked at the files in front of me. You know me too well. A pause. Then she said, yes. The confidence in that answer surprised me. I leaned back. Victoria. Yes? How long have you known? Another pause. Known what? That something about me was different. Silence. Then, since my first month as CEO. I froze. What? I investigated every senior employee when I took over. Everyone? Yes. And what did you find about me? She didn't answer immediately. That told me enough. Victoria. She sighed. You weren't supposed to find out this way. Find out what? Her voice became softer. Ethan. You were never an ordinary employee. I looked at the documents in front of me. She knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. How much do you know? I know you were involved with Apex Horizon before I became CEO. I didn't speak. She continued. I know you were one of the original people who helped create the company's foundation. I closed my eyes. 5 years of hiding. And she knew. But I don't know why you disappeared. That surprised me, because that was the one thing nobody knew. Even Victoria. I looked out the window, because I hated what the company was becoming. She was quiet. I continued. When Apex Horizon started, it wasn't supposed to become another corporation controlled by investors. It was supposed to create technology that actually helped people. But after funding came in, everything changed. Executives started caring more about stock prices than products. People who built the company were pushed aside. I stopped. That's when I left. Victoria's voice was quiet. You gave up millions. Yes. Why? I smiled. Because money wasn't the thing I wanted. What did you want? The question was simple, but I had never answered it. Until now. I wanted to build something I could be proud of. Silence. Then Victoria said, that's why. I frowned. Why what? Why I fell in love with you. I didn't expect that. Even after everything. Even after reading the letter. Hearing her say it directly was different. She continued. Everyone around me wanted something from me. But you walked away from everything. You had the chance to become one of the most powerful people in the company. And you chose to leave. I didn't know what to say. Then she added, do you know how rare that is? I looked down. Victoria, I mean it. Her voice was serious. That's the reason I trusted you. Before I could answer, my computer received a notification. I checked it. A new file had arrived. Unknown sender. I opened it. My expression changed. What happened? Victoria noticed immediately. The person who leaked the article. I looked at the screen. They found my old identity. Silence. What? I opened the file. Inside was a copy of an old shareholder agreement. My name was there. Not Ethan Walker, but my original legal name connected to the founding documents. Victoria became quiet. Someone is trying to expose you. No, I looked carefully that they're not trying to expose me. Then what? They're trying to force me to reveal myself. Victoria understood. Because if I revealed my identity publicly, everything would change. The board, the investors, the entire company. What do you want to do? I closed the file. Tomorrow's shareholder meeting. Victoria immediately said, no, I looked at her. No, you cannot reveal yourself. Why? Because once you do, you lose the life you wanted. That sentence hit me. Because she understood, more than anyone, that I had spent 5 years trying to escape that identity. And now the only way to protect her was to become that person again. I said, what if protecting my life means protecting you? She didn't answer, because she knew. There was no argument. The next morning, the shareholder meeting began. The room was full. Board members, investors, executives, and Alexander Sterling. He stood at the center of the room, looking confident, looking certain that he believed he had already won. Today, Alexander announced, we will decide the future leadership of Apex Horizon. Victoria sat across from him, calm, focused, but I could see the pressure. Then Alexander looked at me. Ethan Walker. Everyone turned. Before this meeting continues, I have one question. I looked at him. Go ahead. He smiled. Who are you? The room became silent. Not because the question was complicated, because everyone understood he knew. Or at least he thought he knew. Alexander continued. Because I don't believe you're just an employee. The investors looked confused. Victoria's expression changed. Only slightly. But I saw it. She was worried. Alexander placed a document on the table. 5 years ago, someone disappeared from Apex Horizon. He looked at everyone. Someone who was supposed to become one of the company's most powerful leaders. The room started whispering. Alexander turned back to me. That person was Ethan Walker. I didn't move. Then he said the words that changed everything. Or should I say? He paused. The original founder of Apex Horizon. The entire room exploded. Everyone looked at me. The employee they thought they understood. The man they believed was protected because of a relationship was suddenly someone they never expected. Victoria looked at me. Not shocked, not angry, just waiting, because she knew. The moment had arrived. I stood up, and after 5 years, I finally stopped hiding. The entire room was waiting for me to speak. That was something I hadn't experienced in 5 years. Not as Ethan Walker. Not as the project manager who sat quietly at the end of meetings. Not as the person people ignored until they needed a solution. Now everyone was looking at me. Investors, executives, board members, even Alexander Sterling. That he thought he had cornered me. That he thought exposing my identity would destroy me. He was wrong. I slowly stood. The room became silent. I looked around the table. Then I looked at Alexander. You want to know who I am? He smiled. Yes. I nodded. Fine. I placed my hands on the table. My name is Ethan Walker. A few people exchanged confused looks. Alexander's smile faded slightly. I continued. And 5 years ago, I was one of the original founders of Apex Horizon. The room exploded again. Several board members started talking at the same time. If that's impossible, why wasn't this disclosed? How does an employee become a founder? Richard Coleman, the chairman, looked at me. Mr. Walker, is this true? I looked at him. Yes. He stared at me. Then why did you hide your identity? That was the question everyone wanted answered. I looked at Victoria. For a moment, I considered giving a simple answer. But after everything that happened, I decided there was no reason to hide anymore. Because I left. The room became quiet. I didn't disappear. Because I was forced out. I didn't leave. Because I failed. I left. Because I didn't agree with the direction this company was taking. Several investors looked uncomfortable. I continued. When Apex Horizon started, the goal was innovation. But after investors came in, the goal changed. Growth became more important than people. Numbers became more important than ideas. I looked around, and I didn't want to be part of that. Alexander laughed. So you abandoned your own company? I turned toward him. No, I stepped closer. I protected it. His expression changed. What? When I left, I transferred my founder shares into a trust. Nobody moved, because they understood. Founder shares, a hidden voting structure, a power nobody knew existed. Alexander's face became serious. That's impossible. I smiled. You should check the company records. The chairman immediately looked at the legal team. Verify it. The lawyers quickly started searching. Alexander shook his head. You expect us to believe that? No, I looked at him. I expect the documents to prove it. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then one of the lawyers stood. His face was pale. Mr. Coleman, the chairman looked at him. What did you find? The lawyer swallowed. The trust exists. A wave of shock spread across the room. And he looked at me. The founder voting rights are still active. Everyone understood, except Alexander. Or maybe he understood too well, because his face changed completely. Victoria remained silent. But I noticed something. She wasn't surprised. She already knew. The chairman looked at me. How much control do you have? I answered honestly. Enough. Alexander suddenly laughed. Everyone looked at him. You think this changes everything? I turned that he was smiling again. You still have a problem. What problem? He pointed at Victoria. Your relationship. The room became quiet again. Alexander continued. You are not just an employee anymore, that you're a founder, which means your relationship with the CEO creates an even bigger conflict. Some investors nodded. He had prepared for this. I looked at Victoria. She looked back. Then she stood. I will resign. The room froze. I immediately turned. What? Victoria looked at me. I said I will resign. No, she ignored everyone else. If my position creates a problem for the company, I will step away. I stared at her. Victoria. She looked at me. You spent 5 years giving up power because you believed in your principles. Her voice was calm. Don't ask me to become someone who chooses power over what is right. Nobody spoke, because everyone understood. This was not a business decision. It was personal, but before anyone could react, I stood. No, Victoria looked at me. Ethan. I shook my head. You're not resigning. The room became silent. I looked at the board. Then the investors. The problem is not Victoria. The problem is that someone has been manipulating this company from inside. Alexander frowned. Careful. I ignored him. Daniel Brooks was only the beginning. I placed the evidence folder on the table. The fake documents. The leaked files. The media attack. All of it was connected. The legal team started reviewing the information. I continued. Someone wanted Victoria removed because she was the only person blocking their control. I looked at Alexander. And they used me as the weapon. Alexander's expression became colder. You have no proof. I smiled. Actually, I do. I opened my laptop. A recording appeared. The room went silent. Daniel's voice filled the speakers. I need Victoria distracted before the shareholder meeting. Another voice answered. A familiar voice. Alexander. You handle the employee. After that, I'll handle my sister. Nobody moved. The recording ended. Alexander's face changed. For the first time, he looked defeated. The chairman looked at him. Alexander. He didn't answer. Victoria looked at me, and I saw something I had never seen before. Relief. Not because she won, because I stood beside her. The meeting ended 3 hours later. Alexander was removed from the board investigation. Daniel's position was suspended. The media story was corrected, but the biggest change wasn't that. It was me, because after 5 years of hiding, everyone finally knew who I was. That evening, I found Victoria alone in her office, the same office where she gave me the letter. She looked at me. So. I smiled. So. You really were the founder? Yes. And you plan to keep it secret forever? Probably. She shook her head. I don't understand you. Why? Most people spend their lives trying to become more powerful. She looked at me. You spent yours trying to escape power. I smiled. Maybe because I knew power wasn't the thing I wanted. She stepped closer. Then what do you want? I looked at her, for once. I didn't avoid the answer. You. She froze. Not because she didn't know, because hearing it was different. I continued. But not because you're the CEO. Not because you're Victoria Sterling. I want you, because you're the person who protected me when everyone else wanted me gone. Her eyes softened. Then she smiled. A real smile. The first one I had ever seen. But before we could say anything else, my phone rang. I answered. It was Michael. His voice was serious. Ethan. What happened? The investigation found something. What? A pause. Then, the person who leaked the first article wasn't Alexander. I frowned. Then who? Michael lowered his voice. Someone even closer to Victoria. I looked at her. She immediately understood something was wrong. Who? Michael answered. And the name changed everything. Victoria's father. The call ended. I looked at Victoria. Her expression had completely changed. Because Alexander wanted control. Daniel wanted money. But her father wanted something much bigger. He wanted to decide who Victoria could love. And now I understood. The battle for Apex Horizon was never just about the company. It was about the Sterling family. And I was standing in the middle of their war. The moment I heard Michael say those words, I knew everything had changed of Victoria's father that I repeated the name in my mind. Not Alexander, not Daniel. Her father, the person who was supposed to protect her, the person who built the foundation of the Sterling family, the person who had the most influence over Apex Horizon. Victoria was still standing in front of me. She didn't ask who it was. She already knew. Her face told me everything. Michael. Her voice was calm, but I could hear something underneath. Pain. When did you find out? Michael hesitated at an hour ago. Why didn't you tell me immediately? Because I wasn't sure. Victoria closed her eyes for a moment. Then she looked at me. Ethan. I didn't answer, because I understood this was no longer a business problem. This was family, and family conflicts were always more complicated. What is his name? Michael looked at me. Then Victoria. Jonathan Sterling. The name carried weight. Everyone in American business knew Jonathan Sterling, the founder of Sterling Holdings. A man who built a financial empire from nothing. A man who had investments in technology, healthcare, real estate, and media. A man who had spent 40 years controlling every situation around him, including his daughter's life. Victoria sat down. For the first time since I met her, she looked tired, not weak, never weak, just tired. I walked closer. How long? She looked at me. What? How long has he been controlling things? She didn't answer. That told me enough. Victoria. She took a breath. Since I became so, I frowned. What? She looked at the window. My father supported my appointment. Everyone thought he believed in me. But the truth was, she paused, that he wanted me to become his representative inside Apex Horizon. I understood. A puppet. A beautiful title. A powerful position, but still controlled by someone else. And you refused. She nodded. At first, I followed his advice because I thought he wanted to help me. Then I realized he didn't want me to lead, he wanted me to obey. I looked at her. So you fought him? Yes. And now he is trying to remove you? Yes. Silence filled the room. Then I asked, why didn't you tell me? She looked surprised. About my father? About everything. Her eyes moved away. Because I didn't want you involved. I almost laughed. Victoria. What? You wrote me a love letter. Protected me from the board. Risked your position for me. I looked at her. And you thought I wouldn't get involved? She didn't answer. I continued. You don't get to decide that alone. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then something unexpected happened. She smiled. You really are impossible. People have said that. I believe them now. I smiled back. But the moment ended when Michael spoke again. There is another problem. We both looked at him. What? The market. Victoria immediately became serious. What happened? Someone sold a large amount of Apex Horizon shares this morning. How many? Michael looked at the report. 0.8%. Victoria's expression changed. That should not be possible. Exactly. I understood. Someone was attacking the company financially. Who bought them? Michael looked at me. We don't know yet. I walked toward the screen. Show me the trading records. Michael hesitated. Ethan, show me. He opened the information. I studied it. 0.5 minutes. 0.10 minutes. Then I noticed something. A pattern. The purchases were split into dozens of smaller transactions. Someone was hiding ownership. Classic takeover strategy. They're building a position. Victoria looked at me. What do you mean? Someone is buying enough shares to challenge control. Michael frowned. But the board already voted. Temporary. I pointed at the numbers. They don't need to win today. They only need enough influence before the next shareholder meeting. Victoria understood. My father. I nodded. He doesn't want to destroy Apex Horizon. He wants to take it. The room became silent. Because that was worse. A destroyed company could recover. A stolen company was different. Someone could erase everything we built. Victoria looked at me. What do we do? That question surprised me. Because Victoria Sterling rarely asked anyone what to do. But now she was asking me. Not as an employee. Not as a founder. As someone standing beside her. I answered. We stopped fighting their game. She looked confused. What does that mean? They expect us to defend. They expect us to panic. I looked at the stock information. So we attack. Michael looked surprised. How? I closed the file. By reminding everyone why Apex Horizon became valuable. Victoria studied me. You have a plan? Yes. What is it? I looked at her. We bring back the technology that created this company. Her expression changed. Because she knew exactly what I meant. The original project? I nodded. The one thing investors never knew existed. The technology one created before leaving. The technology one locked away because I didn't trust the direction of the company. Michael looked between us. Wait. You have something that can change the company? I answered. Yes. Victoria looked at me. And you never told anyone? No, why? I looked at her because I was waiting for the right person to lead it. She went quiet, then asked, and now? I smiled slightly. Now I found that person for the first time. Victoria Sterling looked completely speechless, but there was no time for feelings because an hour later, the entire business world received shocking news. Apex Horizon's largest investor announced they were withdrawing support. The stock price dropped 12%. Three major partners paused negotiations. The media declared, Apex Horizon faces leadership crisis. Everyone expected the company to collapse. They expected Victoria Sterling to lose. They expected me to disappear again. They were wrong. Because they forgot one thing. Before Victoria became the Ice Queen, before Apex Horizon became a billion-dollar company, there was one person who knew exactly how to rebuild it. And that person was me. The moment I heard Michael say those words, I knew everything had changed. Victoria's father. I repeated the name in my mind. Not Alexander, not Daniel. Her father, the person who was supposed to protect her, the person who built the foundation of the Sterling family, the person who had the most influence over Apex Horizon. Victoria was still standing in front of me. She didn't ask who it was. She already knew. Her face told me everything. Michael. Her voice was calm, but I could hear something underneath. Pain. When did you find out? Michael hesitated at an hour ago. Why didn't you tell me immediately? Because I wasn't sure. Victoria closed her eyes for a moment. Then she looked at me. Ethan. I didn't answer because I understood this was no longer a business problem. This was family, and family conflicts were always more complicated. What is his name? Michael looked at me. Then Victoria. Jonathan Sterling. The name carried weight. Everyone in American business knew Jonathan Sterling, the founder of Sterling Holdings. A man who built a financial empire from nothing. A man who had investments in technology, healthcare, real estate, and media. A man who had spent 40 years controlling every situation around him, including his daughter's life. Victoria sat down. For the first time since I met her, she looked tired, not weak, never weak, just tired. I walked closer. How long? She looked at me. What? How long has he been controlling things? She didn't answer. That told me enough. Victoria. She took a breath. Since I became so, I frowned. What? She looked at the window. My father supported my appointment. Everyone thought he believed in me. But the truth was, she paused. That he wanted me to become his representative inside Apex Horizon. I understood. A puppet. A beautiful title. A powerful position, but still controlled by someone else. And you refused. She nodded. At first, I followed his advice because I thought he wanted to help me. Then I realized he didn't want me to lead. He wanted me to obey. I looked at her. So you fought him? Yes. And now he is trying to remove you? Yes. Silence filled the room. Then I asked, why didn't you tell me? She looked surprised. About my father? About everything. Her eyes moved away. Because I didn't want you involved. I almost laughed. Victoria. What? You wrote me a love letter. Protected me from the board. Risked your position for me. I looked at her. And you thought I wouldn't get involved? She didn't answer. I continued. You don't get to decide that alone. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then something unexpected happened. She smiled. You really are impossible. People have said that. I believe them now. I smiled back. But the moment ended when Michael spoke again. There is another problem. We both looked at him. What? The market. Victoria immediately became serious. What happened? Someone sold a large amount of Apex Horizon shares this morning. How many? Michael looked at the report. 0.8%. Victoria's expression changed. That should not be possible. Exactly. I understood. Someone was attacking the company financially. Who bought them? Michael looked at me. We don't know yet. I walked toward the screen. Show me the trading records. Michael hesitated. Ethan, show me. He opened the information. I studied it. 0.5 minutes. 0.10 minutes. Then I noticed something. A pattern. The purchases were split into dozens of smaller transactions. Someone was hiding ownership. Classic takeover strategy. They're building a position. Victoria looked at me. What do you mean? Someone is buying enough shares to challenge control. Michael frowned. But the board already voted. Temporary. I pointed at the numbers. They don't need to win today. They only need enough influence before the next shareholder meeting. Victoria understood. My father. I nodded. He doesn't want to destroy Apex Horizon. He wants to take it. The room became silent. Because that was worse that a destroyed company could recover, that a stolen company was different. Someone could erase everything we built. Victoria looked at me. What do we do? That question surprised me, because Victoria Sterling rarely asked anyone what to do, but now she was asking me. Not as an employee, not as a founder. As someone standing beside her. I answered. We stopped fighting their game. She looked confused. What does that mean? They expect us to defend. They expect us to panic. I looked at the stock information. So we attack. Michael looked surprised. How? I closed the file. By reminding everyone why Apex Horizon became valuable. Victoria studied me. You have a plan? Yes. What is it? I looked at her. We bring back the technology that created this company. Her expression changed because she knew exactly what I meant. The original project? I nodded. The one thing investors never knew existed. The technology one created before leaving. The technology one locked away because I didn't trust the direction of the company. Michael looked between us. Wait. You have something that can change the company? I answered. Yes. Victoria looked at me. And you never told anyone? No, why? I looked at her. Because I was waiting for the right person to lead it. She went quiet, then asked, and now? I smiled slightly. Now I found that person, for the first time. Victoria Sterling looked completely speechless, but there was no time for feelings, because an hour later, the entire business world received shocking news. Apex Horizon's largest investor announced they were withdrawing support. The stock price dropped 12%. Three major partners paused negotiations. The media declared, Apex Horizon faces leadership crisis. Everyone expected the company to collapse. They expected Victoria Sterling to lose. They expected me to disappear again. They were wrong. Because they forgot one thing. Before Victoria became the Ice Queen, before Apex Horizon became $1 billion company, there was one person who knew exactly how to rebuild it, and that person was me. The next morning, the entire company was in chaos. Apex Horizon had survived difficult moments before, but this time was different. The attack wasn't coming from a competitor. IT wasn't coming from the market. IT was coming from inside. When I walked into the executive conference room, every senior executive was already there. Some looked nervous. Some looked angry. Some looked like they were already preparing their escape. That was how companies work during a crisis. People didn't only worry about losing money. They worried about being blamed. Victoria walked in 5 minutes later. The room immediately became silent. She placed a tablet on the table. The stock is down 14%. Nobody spoke. The media has published 37 negative articles. Still silence. Point 3 strategic. Partners have paused negotiations. Finally, someone spoke. IT was James Parker, the chief financial officer. Victoria. We need to be realistic. Everyone looked at him. He continued. The investors are losing confidence. Victoria looked at him. Your solution? James hesitated. We need to negotiate. With who? With Jonathan Sterling. The room changed. Everyone knew what that meant. Surrendered. Victoria's eyes became cold. No, James looked uncomfortable, but a mess. Sterling. No, her voice became stronger. We are not giving control of this company to the person attacking it. Nobody responded. Then another executive spoke. But what if we don't have a choice? That was the question everyone was thinking. I looked around the room. 5 years ago, I would have stayed silent. I would have listened. I would have waited for someone else to make a decision. Not anymore. I stood. Everyone looked at me. The choice is simple. James frowned. Ethan? I ignored the surprise in his voice. We stopped trying to save the company that exists. I walked to the screen. We build the company everyone thought was impossible. I connected my laptop. A file appeared. The room went quiet. The name on the screen was Project Phoenix. Nobody recognized it. Except Victoria. Her eyes widened. You kept it. I looked at her. Yes. James frowned. What is Project Phoenix? I answered. The next generation of artificial intelligence infrastructure. The room became quiet. I continued. 5 years ago, before investors changed the direction of Apex Horizon, this was the technology we were developing. A senior executive shook his head. But the project was abandoned. No, I looked at him. It was hidden. I opened the data. Numbers appeared. Performance results. Testing records. Prototype evaluations. The room slowly changed. Because everyone understood. This wasn't an idea. This was something real. James stepped closer. How much value does this have? I answered honestly. More than the entire current Horizon X project. Nobody spoke. Victoria looked at me. You knew this. could change everything. Yes. Then why didn't you use it? I looked at her. Because the wrong people would have controlled it. The room became silent. That was the truth. Technology was never just technology. The person controlling it mattered. Victoria understood. She always had. Then the door opened. Michael rushed in. Victoria, she turned. What happened? The shareholder meeting has been moved. When? Tomorrow morning. Everyone froze. James looked worried. Tomorrow? Michael nodded. Jonathan Sterling has enough support to request a leadership vote. The room became tense. Victoria looked at me. They want to remove me. I nodded. Yes. James looked between us. Can Project Phoenix stop that? Everyone waited. I answered. No, that surprised them. No? I shook my head. Project Phoenix is not the solution. Then what is? I looked at Victoria. She is. Everyone looked confused. I continued. The reason investors are leaving isn't because they don't believe in Apex Horizon. They are afraid. Afraid of uncertainty. Afraid of conflict. They need someone they trust. I looked at Victoria. And she needs to show them she isn't just Jonathan Sterling's daughter. She's the person who built this company into what it is. Victoria didn't speak. But I knew she understood. That was the real battle. Not technology. Not money to leadership. An hour later, Victoria and I met privately. She closed the door. You surprised everyone. I surprised you too. She smiled slightly. Yes. I sat down. She remained standing. You know what tomorrow means. I do. If I lose the vote. You won't. Ethan. I looked at her. You sound very confident. Because I know you. She shook her head. Know what? You know my ability. She looked at me. But you don't know my weakness. I frowned. What weakness? She was silent. Then said, you. I didn't answer. She continued. When people attack me. I don't care. When they attack the company. I fight. But when they attack you. She stopped. That's when I lose control. I looked at her. Victoria. She looked away. I hate that. Why? Because I spent my whole life becoming someone nobody could hurt. Her voice became quieter. Then you appeared. I didn't know what to say. Because I understood. Victoria wasn't afraid of losing money. She wasn't afraid of losing power. She was afraid of losing the one person who made her feel human. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice came through. Mr. Walker. I immediately recognized it. Jonathan Sterling. Victoria saw my expression. She knew. What does he want? I put the call on speaker. Jonathan spoke calmly. You have caused enough trouble. I answered. You attacked my company. A short laugh. Your company? I looked at Victoria, then back at the phone. Yes. His voice became colder. You still don't understand. Understand what? Power. Silence. Then Jonathan continued. You think revealing your identity makes you stronger. It doesn't. It makes you a target. I didn't respond. He continued. Tomorrow, when Victoria loses the vote, you will leave Apex Horizon. I smiled. And if I don't? His answer was immediate. Then I destroy everything you care about. The call ended. Victoria looked at me. What did he mean? I stared at the phone. Then I understood. Jonathan wasn't threatening the company. He was threatening something else. Something personal. Something connected to my past. Because there was one thing almost nobody knew. The reason I left Apex Horizon 5 years ago, the reason I disappeared wasn't just because I hated investors. It was because someone tried to destroy me. And now, that person was back. After Jonathan Sterling's call ended, neither of us spoke for several seconds. Victoria was the first to break the silence. What did he mean? I looked at her. About what? About destroying everything you care about. I didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was something I had buried for 5 years, something I never wanted to discuss again. Victoria noticed. Ethan. I looked at her. I need to tell you something. She waited 0.5 years ago. When I left Apex Horizon, there was another reason. I know you disagreed with the investors. If that's only part of it. I sat down. The night before I resigned, someone tried to steal the original Project Phoenix files. Victoria frowned. What? I caught them. Who? I never found out. I looked at her. But I knew one thing. What? The person had access to the highest level of the company. Victoria became serious. So you left because you thought someone inside Apex Horizon was trying to destroy your work? I nodded. Yes. And Jonathan? I don't know. I looked at the clock. But now everything connects. Victoria crossed her arms. Daniel was just a tool. Alexander wanted control. And Jonathan? I looked at her. He wants something bigger. She understood. The entire attack was not random. It was planned years ago. The fake documents. The media attack. the shareholder pressure. Everything was part of a larger strategy, and the biggest mistake Jonathan made was assuming I was still the same person who walked away 5 years ago that I wasn't. The next morning, the shareholder meeting began. Every major investor attended, every board member attended, and every media company was waiting outside. The entire world wanted to see if Victoria Sterling would fall. When we entered the conference room, cameras were already flashing. Reporters shouted questions. Ms. Sterling, are you stepping down? Is Ethan Walker controlling company decisions? Did you hide his identity from investors? Victoria ignored every question. She walked straight inside. I followed her. This time, nobody whispered that I was just an employee. Everyone knew. The person walking beside the CEO was the original founder of Apex Horizon. The meeting started. Richard Coleman opened. Today's vote concerns the future leadership of Apex Horizon. Jonathan Sterling appeared through video conference. He didn't even need to be physically present. That showed his confidence that he believed the result was already decided. Jonathan looked at Victoria. Daughter. Victoria's expression remained cold. Father. He smiled. You. VE made this unnecessarily difficult. Victoria answered. You attacked my company. No. Jonathan shook his head. I protected my family's investment. I almost laughed. That was how powerful people justified everything. They never admitted greed. They called it responsibility. Jonathan continued. You were given an opportunity to lead. Prove yourself. But you allowed personal emotions to interfere. Everyone looked at Victoria. Waiting. Jonathan looked at me. Ethan Walker, you are talented, but you are also the reason my daughter lost judgment. I stood. I disagree. Jonathan looked amused. You think this is your decision? No. I looked around the room. This is the company's decision. Then I opened a file. A document appeared on the screen. The room changed immediately. Jonathan's expression changed. What is that? I answered. Evidence. The document contained financial records, transactions, hidden investments, ownership transfers, everything. The board members started reading. Richard looked shocked. Jonathan's face became serious. What are you doing? I continued. For the last 2 years, Sterling Holdings has been secretly purchasing Apex Horizon shares through third-party companies. Silence. I clicked again. Not to invest. Gain control. One investor stood. I asked this true? Jonathan didn't answer. That was enough. I continued. The reason he attacked Victoria wasn't because she failed. It was because she refused to give him control. The room exploded. Investors started demanding answers. Jonathan finally lost his calm. You think this changes anything? He looked directly at me. You still need the votes. I smiled. No. I clicked another file. The votes changed. The chairman looked at me. What did you do? I answered. I contacted the original investors. Everyone froze. 5 years ago. When I left, I didn't sell my shares. I didn't abandon the company. I protected it. And now those people still trusted me. The final voting numbers appeared. Jonathan Sterling's support dropped. Victoria's support increased. The result was clear. Jonathan lost. The room went silent for the first time. The man who controlled everything had no answer. Victoria looked at me. I saw something in her eyes. Not victory, relief. After the meeting ended, we walked back to her office. Neither of us spoke. Finally, she stopped. Ethan. I turned. Yes? Why? I frowned. Why what? Why did you do all of this? I looked at her. Because it was right. She shook her head. No. She stepped closer. Most people would have taken revenge. Most people would have used this chance to take power, but you protected me. I smiled. Maybe because someone protected me first. She froze. What? I looked at her. You remember 5 years ago when the company almost collapsed? Victoria nodded slowly. Yes, everyone abandoned the project. Everyone said it was impossible. I looked at her, but someone anonymously funded the final research phase. Her expression changed. Ethan, that was you, wasn't it? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. I already knew. 5 years ago. Before she became CEO, Victoria had secretly saved my project. She believed in my work before anyone else did. And now I understood. The reason she loved me wasn't because of what I became. It was because she believed in me before anyone knew my name. She looked at me. I wanted to tell you. When? After I became CEO. Why didn't you? She smiled sadly. Because I thought you would think I was trying to repay you. I shook my head. Victoria. She looked at me. You saved the thing I cared about most. I stepped closer, and you never asked for anything. For the first time, Victoria Sterling looked vulnerable, not as a CEO, not as an heiress, just Victoria. Then her phone rang. She answered. Her expression changed instantly. What happened? A pause. Then, are you sure? She looked at me. Send me everything. She ended the call. What now? She looked at me. The shareholder battle was only the beginning. I frowned. What do you mean? She handed me the phone. A news alert appeared. Apex Horizon's competitor announces a breakthrough technology identical to Project Phoenix. I stared at the headline. Impossible. Nobody had access to that technology. Except, I looked at Victoria. Someone had stolen Project Phoenix. And this time, the enemy wasn't trying to control Apex Horizon. They were trying to replace it. The war had just entered a new stage. The news appeared at 7:13 a.m.b. y 7:20 a.m. Every major business network was talking about it. Novatech announces revolutionary AI system. Claims to redefine the industry. At first glance, it looked like a normal competitor announcement that a company releasing new technology, that a company celebrating success. But I knew better, because the technology they revealed wasn't just similar to Project Phoenix. It was Project Phoenix. The same architecture, the same core algorithm, the same design principles. Someone had stolen 5 years of my work. I stared at the screen. Victoria was standing across from me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She knew exactly what I was thinking. Ethan. I looked at her, who had access. Her expression became serious. Only a few people. Name them. She hesitated. Me. Michael, the original research team. And you. I looked at her. I never shared the final version. I know. Her answer was immediate. That was what scared me, because if Victoria believed me, then the question became even harder. Who stole it? Michael entered the office. His face was serious. We found something. Victoria turned. What? Michael placed a folder on the desk. Novatech's technology was registered 3 months ago. I frowned. 3 months? Yes. Victoria looked confused. But Project Phoenix was confidential. Michael nodded. Exactly. I opened the folder. Inside were patent records. The technology had been filed under a company called Vertex Solutions. I recognized the name. A small research company. At least. That's what everyone thought. I looked closer. Then I saw the investors. My expression changed. Sterling Holdings. Victoria froze. What? Your father? Silence. Michael looked shocked. Jonathan? I nodded. He didn't just want Apex Horizon. He wanted Project Phoenix. Victoria looked away. For a moment, I saw something I rarely saw. Pain. Because no matter what Jonathan did, he was still her father, but she quickly controlled herself. Then we expose him. I looked at her. You understand what that means? Yes. If you attack your father publicly, the Sterling family will collapse. I know. Your reputation. I know. Your family relationships. She looked at me. Ethan. Her voice became firm. I chose my company. A pause. Then, and I chose you. That sentence hit me harder than any business threat, because Victoria Sterling didn't say things casually. Every word she spoke had weight. I looked away, because I knew something. She was willing to lose everything, and I wasn't. Not because I wanted power, because I didn't want her to sacrifice herself for me. Victoria. What? You can't keep choosing me over everything. She frowned. Why not? Because one day you might regret it. She walked closer. Ethan. I looked at her. I spent my entire life making decisions other people wanted me to make. My father told me what success looked like. Investors told me what leadership looked like. Executives told me what a CEO should be. She paused. But you were the first person who never told me who I should become. Her voice softened. You let me be myself. I didn't answer. She continued. Oh, don't tell me what choice I should make. That was Victoria, the woman who could stand against investors. The woman who could challenge her own family. The woman who never backed down. But now she was standing in front of me asking for something different. Trust. I nodded. Okay. She looked surprised. Okay? I trust you. A small smile appeared. Good. Then Michael interrupted. Sorry. We turned. He looked uncomfortable. But we have another problem. Victoria immediately became professional again. What? The board knows about Novatech. And they want Ethan removed from Project Phoenix. I frowned. What? Michael continued. They believe the theft happened because Ethan's identity became public. I almost laughed. Of course. Victoria looked angry. They are blaming him? Michael nodded. Yes. Why? Because they say his return created instability. I shook my head. This was corporate logic. When someone attacked you, Blame the victim. Victoria looked at me. What do you want to do? I answered. Let them vote. She frowned. Ethan. No, I looked at her. Let them make their decision. Michael looked confused. But if they remove you, they won't. How do you know? I smiled. Because they forgot something. What? They think I'm fighting for my position. I closed the folder. I'm not. I'm fighting for the company. 2 hours later. The emergency board meeting began. This time, everyone looked different. Because nobody saw me as an employee anymore. They saw me as a founder. A person who could challenge them. James Parker, the CFO, was the first to speak. Ethan Walker's involvement has created unnecessary risks. I looked at him. Explained that he avoided my eyes. The media attention. The investor concerns. The conflict with Sterling Holdings. I nodded. So your solution is to remove the person who created the technology? James didn't answer. I continued. Interesting. What? When the company earns billions from Project Phoenix, everyone will call it a success. But when someone steals it, suddenly the creator is the problem. Nobody spoke. Victoria looked at me. I continued. I have one question. I looked at the board. You want to protect Apex Horizon? Richard answered. Of course. Then stop protecting yourselves. The room became quiet, because that was the truth. Everyone was afraid. Afraid of investors, afraid of losing positions, afraid of making difficult decisions. But companies weren't built by people who avoided risks. They were built by people willing to fight. I opened my laptop. I have something to show you. A new file appeared. The room changed. Because this wasn't Project Phoenix. It was something else. A project I created after leaving Apex Horizon. A technology that could prove who stole Phoenix. Victoria looked at the screen. What is that? I answered. The reason I left 5 years ago. Everyone looked confused. I continued. The real reason. And for the first time, I was ready to reveal the final secret I had kept hidden. Not just my identity, but the truth behind my disappearance. Because the person who stole Project Phoenix was connected to the event that made me leave Apex Horizon in the first place. The room became completely silent. Everyone was waiting for me to explain. Even Victoria. She knew I had secrets. She knew I had hidden my identity. But she didn't know everything. I looked at the faces around the table. 5 years ago. I sat in rooms like this. I was one of the people making decisions. Then I walked away. Not because I was defeated, because I discovered something. The company I helped create was being controlled by people who cared more about ownership than innovation, and now, 5 years later, the same problem had returned. I opened the file. The screen displayed a series of encrypted records. This is called Project Sentinel. James Parker frowned. Another project? I nodded. Yes. Why has nobody heard of it? Because it wasn't developed under Apex Horizon. The room became tense. Victoria looked at me. Then where? I answered. By me. Everyone stared. I continued. After I left Apex Horizon, I spent 3 years developing a system to protect intellectual property. Project Sentinel was designed to identify unauthorized technology replication. Michael looked at the data. You're saying this can prove Novatech stole Project Phoenix. Not only that, I clicked another file. It can identify when and how the information was taken. The board members exchanged looks. Richard leaned forward. You have the data? I nodded. Yes. Then why haven't you released it? I looked at Victoria. Because I wasn't ready. She understood that I had spent 5 years trying to forget Apex Horizon, trying to live normally, trying to become someone who didn't have to fight every day. But now the fight came back. And this time, I wasn't alone. Victoria looked at the board. Ethan's technology can prove the theft. James immediately responded. But it also proves he had access to advanced systems outside the company. I looked at him. And investors may question whether he has conflicts. I smiled. That you're still trying to make me the problem. James didn't answer. I continued. Let's be honest. The reason you're uncomfortable isn't because of conflict. It's because if I prove this, I pointed at the screen. People will ask why nobody else saw it coming. Nobody spoke. Because I was right. The board wasn't afraid of the technology. They were afraid of responsibility. Victoria stood. I support Ethan's investigation. Richard looked at her. Victoria. No, her voice was firm. This company was built on innovation. If we abandon the person who created that innovation because someone attacked us, then we deserve to lose. Nobody argued. Because everyone knew. Victoria was right. The meeting ended with one decision. I would lead the investigation into Project Phoenix theft. But there was one condition. The board wanted results within 7 days. 7 days. To identify the thief. To prove the theft. To stop a billion-dollar competitor. Most people would have considered it impossible. I didn't. Because now I knew something. The enemy had one weakness. They believed they understood me. They didn't. That evening, Victoria stayed in the office with me. The company had mostly emptied, but neither of us left. She looked at the data on my screen. You really planned everything. I looked at her. What do you mean? Project Sentinel. Yes. The trust. Yes. The founder shares. Yes. She smiled. You are much scarier than people think. I laughed. Coming from the Ice Queen. She looked at me. I don't think I like that nickname anymore. Why? Because it's not true. I looked at her. What do you mean? She was quiet. Then, people think I'm cold. Because I don't care. But the truth is, she looked down. I care too much. I didn't interrupt. She continued. I learned early that showing emotions gave people weaknesses. To you. So I stopped showing them. Until you. I looked at her. Me? She nodded. You never treated me differently. I was your CEO. I know. You weren't afraid of me. I respected you. She smiled. Everyone else wanted something. You wanted honesty. I didn't know how to respond. Then she opened a drawer and took out something. The letter. The same letter she gave me on the day everything changed. I thought you threw it away. She shook her head. No, she handed it to me. I wrote another version. I looked surprised. Another version? The first one was incomplete. Why? Because I was afraid. I looked at the paper. Afraid of what? She answered. Afraid that if I wrote everything I felt, she paused, you would see how much power you had over me. I looked at her. Victoria Sterling. The woman who controlled billions of dollars. The woman who could make executives lose their jobs with one sentence. Was afraid of me. Not because I was powerful, because she cared. I opened the letter. The first sentence was different. I don't know when you became the person I trusted most. I continued reading. Maybe it was the day you challenged my decision in front of the entire executive team. Maybe it was the night you stayed until 3 a.m. fixing a problem that wasn't yours. Maybe it was the day you walked away from power because you believed principles mattered more. I looked up. You remembered all that? She nodded. Everything. I folded the letter. Victoria. Yes? I need to tell you something. She waited. The day you gave me the first letter, she looked at me. I thought it was a termination notice. A small smile appeared. I know. You knew? Yes. How? Because your face was hilarious. I laughed. The first genuine laugh in days. Then she smiled too. For a moment. There was no board. No investors. No enemies. Just us. But the moment didn't last. My computer suddenly flashed. An alert. I immediately stood. What happened? I checked the screen. A new message from Project Sentinel. Unauthorized access detected. Victoria's expression changed. Someone found us. I nodded. They know we're investigating. The screen displayed the location of the attack. My expression changed. Because the location wasn't Novatech. It wasn't Sterling Holdings. It was inside Apex Horizon. Inside our own company. Victoria saw my face. Who? I looked at the data, then slowly answered. Someone from the original Phoenix team. Her eyes widened. Impossible. No, I closed the laptop. Not impossible. Someone we trusted. The person who stole Project Phoenix was someone who helped create it. And if that was true, the enemy wasn't outside the company. The enemy had been standing beside us from the beginning. The next morning, I arrived at Apex Horizon before sunrise. Not because I wanted to prove anything. Not because I was trying to impress anyone. Because for the first time in 5 years, I knew exactly what I had to do. Find the traitor. The person who stole Project Phoenix was not a random competitor. It was someone who had worked beside us. Someone who understood the technology. Someone who knew how to bypass our security. That meant only one thing. The enemy was someone I trusted when I entered the research department. The entire team became quiet. People looked at me differently now. Before, I was Ethan Walker. A senior project manager. Someone who worked hard. Someone who solved problems. Now they knew the truth. I was one of the founders. The person who created the foundation of Apex Horizon. I hated that feeling. Not the respect, the distance, the moment people knew my title. They stopped treating me normally. That was exactly why I left 5 years ago. I didn't want people to see a name. I wanted them to see a person. A researcher approached me. Ethan. I looked at him. His name was Kevin Moore. One of the original Phoenix engineers. Kevin, he looked nervous. I heard about the investigation. Yes, the DO, you think someone from the team did it. I studied his expression. A little too interested. A little too eager. I didn't accuse him. Not yet did I think someone had access. Kevin nodded. That makes sense. Where were you 3 months ago? His expression changed. Only slightly. Why? Routine question. He smiled. I was working on the Phoenix optimization project. With who? Mostly myself. Interesting. Nobody worked alone on Phoenix. Not originally. I looked at him. Thanks. He left. Victoria walked over. You noticed something? I looked at her. Maybe. You don't trust him. I don't trust anyone yet. She nodded. That was the difference between us. Victoria trusted her instincts. I trusted evidence. And evidence always told the truth. 18 noon. Michael brought the first report. Ethan. I opened it. What did you find? 3 people accessed the original Phoenix files. Names: Kevin Moore, Rachel Adams, and he stopped. Who? Michael looked uncomfortable. Yourself. I smiled slightly. Of course. Victoria looked at the report. What does this mean? It means the system detected access. Not theft. Michael nodded. Exactly. I continued reading. Kevin accessed the files 14 times. Rachel accessed them 6 times. I accessed them once. Victoria frowned. When? Michael answered. The night before you left the company. The room became silent. I remembered that night. The night everything changed. The night someone tried to steal Phoenix. I looked at Victoria. Find Rachel. Michael nodded. What about Kevin? Keep watching him. Victoria looked at me. You think Rachel is involved? I don't know. Then why her? Because she accessed the files after I left. Victoria understood. Someone had continued the operation. Someone had taken what I abandoned. 2 hours later. Rachel Adams entered the conference room. She looked calm. Too calm. Rachel was another original Phoenix engineer. She was brilliant. She was also someone I trusted. Ethan. She smiled. It's been a long time. Yes. She looked at Victoria. Congratulations on becoming CEO. Victoria nodded. Thank you. Rachel sat down. Why am I here? I placed the report in front of her. Project Phoenix. Her expression didn't change. What about it? The stolen version. Silence. Then she smiled. You think I stole it? I think someone did. And you think it's me? I think you know something. Rachel looked at me for several seconds. Nobody spoke. Then she said, You haven't changed. I frowned. What? You still believe people are better than they are. I stared at her. What does that mean? She looked at Victoria. Did she tell you? Victoria's expression changed. Tell him what? Rachel smiled. The truth about 5 years ago. My heart sank. What truth? Rachel looked at me. The reason you left. I stood. Explain. She leaned back. You thought someone tried to steal Phoenix. Yes. You thought someone wanted control. Yes. But you never knew. Why did I waited? Rachel continued. Because you were never the target. The room became silent. What are you talking about? She looked at me. You were protecting the wrong thing. I stepped closer. Rachel. 5 years ago. Someone wanted you gone because you were the only person who could stop them. Who? She looked at Victoria, then back at me. Jonathan Sterling. Victoria's face changed. No. Rachel nodded. Yes. I froze. But why? Rachel answered. Because Jonathan didn't want to steal Phoenix. He wanted to own the entire company. I already knew that. But then she said something I didn't expect. He needed you gone because of your shares. I frowned. My shares. Rachel nodded. Your founder shares. Your voting rights. If you stayed. Nobody could take control. I understood. 5 years ago. I wasn't just an obstacle. I was the only person standing between Jonathan and Apex Horizon. Rachel continued. So Jonathan created a situation where you would leave. I looked at her. What did he do? Her expression became serious. He used someone you trusted. The room became colder. Who? Rachel didn't answer. Instead, she looked at Victoria. I think you should ask her. I turned. Victoria looked shocked. What? Rachel stood. Ask Victoria why she never told you the full story. I looked at Victoria. My heart tightened. Victoria? She didn't speak. That scared me more than anything. Because Victoria always had an answer. Always. But now, she was silent. Rachel left. The room remained quiet. Finally, I asked. Victoria? She looked at me. Is there something you haven't told me? A long pause. Then she whispered. Yes. I waited. Her eyes became complicated. 5 years ago. She took a breath. I was the person who convinced you to leave. I froze. What? I didn't know the whole plan. But I knew your position was dangerous. I stared at her. Why? Because Jonathan threatened you. My expression changed. He threatened me. She nodded. He told me if I didn't convince you to leave. She stopped. What? Victoria looked at me. He would destroy everything you built that I couldn't speak. The woman who protected me, the woman who loved me, was also connected to the reason I disappeared. But before I could ask anything else, the office door opened. Michael rushed in. His face was pale. Ethan. What happened? He looked at Victoria. Then we found the person who transferred Project Phoenix. Who? Michael handed me the file. I opened it, and my hands froze. Because the name on the document was impossible. It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't Rachel. It wasn't Jonathan. It was someone I trusted more than anyone. Someone who had stood beside me through everything. Someone who knew all my secrets. The transfer authorization was signed by Victoria Sterling. I looked up, and for the first time, I didn't know who I could believe. The name on the document didn't change, and no matter how many times I looked at it, and no matter how many times I tried to convince myself there was another explanation. It was still there. Authorized by Victoria Sterling. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Michael looked at me. Victoria looked at me. And I looked at the document. The same woman who stood beside me against her father. The same woman who risked her position to protect me. The same woman who wrote me a letter saying she trusted me more than anyone. Was the person who authorized the transfer of Project Phoenix. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was confusion. Because anger required certainty, and I didn't have that. I slowly raised my head. Victoria. She didn't answer. That scared me. Because Victoria Sterling always had an answer. Always. She could handle hostile investors. She could destroy opponents in meetings. She could make decisions worth billions of dollars without hesitation. But now, she looked like someone who had been caught hiding something. Tell me this isn't real. My voice was quieter than I expected. Michael looked away. Victoria closed her eyes. Ethan, tell me. She opened her eyes. I can explain. That sentence hurt more than anything, because people only said that when the truth was complicated. I laughed once. Explain what? She stepped closer. The document. The signature. The transfer. I pointed at the screen. Explain why your name is there. She didn't answer immediately. That was enough. I stepped back. 5 years. She looked at me. What? 5 years. I believed one thing. I shook my head. I believed I left because I failed to protect my work. I believed someone stole from me. I believed someone inside the company betrayed me. My voice became colder, but I never thought it was you. Victoria's expression changed. Ethan, listen to me. No, she stopped. Because she knew. For the first time. I wasn't listening. I need the truth. She nodded slowly. You deserve it. Michael quietly left the room. He understood. This conversation wasn't for anyone else. The door closed. Victoria and I were alone. She looked at the document, then at me. 5 years ago. I did sign that transfer. I felt something inside me break. She continued quickly, but I did not give Project Phoenix to anyone. I frowned. What does that mean? The document you found. She looked at the screen. Was not the original. I stared at her. What? The signature is real. Your signature? Yes. Then how is the document fake? She walked toward the screen. Because someone changed the agreement after I signed it. I didn't understand. Why would you sign it at all? She was silent. Then she said, because I was trying to save you. I almost laughed. Save me? Yes. By transferring my life's work. Ethan, no. I looked at her. You don't get to say you saved me when you destroyed the one thing I built. Her eyes became painful. I know how it looks. Because it is exactly how it looks. She didn't defend herself. Instead, she said, I should have told you years ago. That sentence stopped me. What? I should have told you everything. I waited. She continued. 5 years ago. My father discovered Project Phoenix. I nodded. I know. No. She shook her head. You don't. She sat down. He didn't just want the technology. He wanted you. I frowned. What? He wanted your loyalty. I stared at her. He offered you a position. I remembered. 5 years ago. Before I left. Jonathan Sterling had approached me. He wanted me to become the company's chief technology officer. I refused. Because I knew what that meant. Control. Victoria continued. When you refused him, he realized you would never work under him. So he changed his plan. I asked. What plan? Her voice became quieter. Remove you. I didn't speak. She continued. My father knew your founder shares protected the company. He knew as long as you stayed. He could never take complete control. So he created a situation where you would leave. I looked at her. What situation? Victoria looked down. He threatened me. I froze. What? He told me if I didn't convince you to leave Apex Horizon. She paused. He would destroy you. I stared. He would destroy me how? Victoria swallowed. He had information. What information? She looked at me. The accident.my expression changed point 0.5 years ago. The accident. The one event nobody talked about. The reason I disappeared from public attention. The reason I stopped being involved in business. I whispered. How does he know? Victoria didn't answer. Because the answer was obvious that he was involved. I sat down. So you signed the transfer. Yes. Protect me. Yes. But you never told me. Know why? Her eyes became red. Because I knew you would stay. I looked at her. What? You would have fought him. You would have destroyed yourself trying to protect the company. She looked at me, and I couldn't let that happen. I was silent, because the worst part was, I knew she was right. If she had told me the truth 5 years ago, I would have stayed. I would have fought Jonathan. I would have lost, and she knew that. But there was still one question. If you signed it. I looked at the document. How did Jonathan get Project Phoenix? Victoria answered. He didn't. I frowned. What? The real Phoenix files were never transferred. Then what was transferred? She looked at me. A fake version. I froze. A fake version. She nodded. 0.5 years ago. I copied the original project and created a false database. I stared. You replaced it? Yes. Without telling me? She nodded. Because I needed Jonathan to believe he won. I couldn't speak. The woman I thought betrayed me had actually protected my work. But then why was her signature on the stolen files? Victoria looked at me. Because someone used that same fake transfer agreement against me. I understood. Someone took her old signature. Someone modified the document. Someone created evidence that made it look like Victoria betrayed me. And the person who did it was someone who knew both of us. I stood. Who? Victoria looked at me. I don't know. But then her phone rang. She checked the screen. Her expression changed. What? I looked at her. Who is it? She didn't answer. Because the caller ID was visible. A name appeared. Jonathan Sterling. She answered. What do you want? Her father's voice came through. Calm. Confident. Like he had been waiting for this moment. You're finally telling him. Victoria froze. My eyes narrowed. You knew? Jonathan laughed softly. Of course I knew. I stepped closer. Jonathan. He heard me. Ethan. His voice changed. After 5 years. You're finally asking the right questions. I clenched my fist. You framed Victoria. No, his answer was immediate. I exposed her. Victoria's face changed. Father. Jonathan continued. You still don't understand. Ethan Walker was never your enemy. Victoria was. I looked at Victoria. Then the phone. What are you talking about? Jonathan laughed. Ask her what happened the night you left Apex Horizon. Silence. Then he said, ask her why she was the last person to see your original Phoenix files. The call ended. I looked at Victoria, and for the first time, I wondered if the woman I loved was hiding something even bigger. After Jonathan ended the call, the office became completely silent. But this silence was different. Before, silence meant we were thinking. Now, silence meant something was broken. I looked at Victoria. She looked back at me. For the first time since I met her. I didn't know what she was going to say. That scared me, because I always knew Victoria. At least. I thought I did. I knew the cold CEO. The woman who never hesitated. The woman who could walk into a hostile boardroom and make everyone afraid. But this woman standing in front of me. She was someone else. Someone carrying a secret. Tell me. My voice was calm. Too calm. Victoria noticed. Ethan, what happened that night? She looked away. That was my answer. I felt my chest tighten. Victoria. She closed her eyes. I didn't want you to find out like this. I didn't ask that. I stepped closer. I asked what happened. She took a long breath. Then she finally said, the night you left Apex Horizon. A pause. I was there. I frowned. I know you were there. No, she shook her head. You don't know? She looked at me. I wasn't just there. I was the reason you left. Those words hit harder than any accusation. I stared at her. What? She continued. That night. You came to my office. I remember. You told me someone was trying to steal Project Phoenix. I nodded. Yes. You asked me to investigate. Yes. And I promised I would. She looked down. But I lied. My expression changed. You lied? I investigated. Then what? I found out who was involved. Who? She didn't answer. I already knew. Jonathan. She nodded. Yes. My hands tightened. Then why didn't you tell me? Because my father threatened you. You said that already. No, her voice became emotional. You don't understand that he didn't just threaten your career. He threatened your life. I froze. What? Victoria continued. He knew about the accident. He knew what happened. That he knew someone wanted you gone. And he used that. I stared at her. What accident? She looked at me. The one you don't remember completely. My heart stopped. Because she was right. 5 years ago. There was a car accident. Everyone told me it was an accident. A drunk driver. A random event. But after that night, things changed. I lost my position. I lost access to the company. And eventually, I left. I looked at Victoria. Are you saying it wasn't an accident? She nodded. I think someone planned it. Who? I don't know. Jonathan? No, her answer surprised me. No. She shook her head. My father knew about it, but he didn't create it. I frowned. Then who did? She looked at me. That's what I was trying to find out. I walked away. My mind was moving too fast. 5 years. Everything I believed was wrong. I thought I abandoned Apex Horizon. I thought I failed. I thought Victoria didn't care enough to protect me. But the truth was much more complicated. She had been fighting a war I didn't know existed. A war where she couldn't tell me anything. Because telling me would have put me in more danger. Did I turn back? Why now? Victoria looked confused. What? Why tell me now? Because you deserve the truth. I shook my head. No, she stopped. What? You tell me now because the evidence appeared. She became silent. I continued. If nobody found that document, would you have told me? She didn't answer, and that hurt. Because silence was an answer too. Victoria looked down. No, I laughed softly. At least you're honest. Ethan? No, I looked at her. I understand why you did it, but I don't understand why you kept choosing for me. Her eyes moved. What? You decided I couldn't handle the truth. You decided leaving was better. You decided protecting me meant hiding everything. I shook my head. But you never asked what I wanted. Victoria's expression changed. Because that was the one thing she couldn't argue against. I continued. You protected me, but you didn't trust me. Those words hurt her. I could see it. And maybe that was the first time I realized something. Victoria Sterling was not afraid of losing power. She was afraid of losing me. And she had made every decision based on that fear before she could respond. The door opened. Michael entered. His expression was urgent. Ethan. We both looked at him. What happened? He placed a tablet on the table. Someone leaked another file. Victoria immediately became serious. What file? Michael looked at me. Your original founder agreement. I frowned. What about it? They released it publicly. I took the tablet. The headline was already everywhere. Hidden founder Ethan Walker manipulated Apex Horizon CEO for personal control. I almost laughed. Again, same strategy, different target. They couldn't attack my ability. They attacked my character. Michael continued. But that's not the worst part. I looked up. What else? The file contains a recording. Victoria's face changed. What recording? Michael hesitated. From 5 years ago. My heart sank. Play it. Michael pressed the screen. A voice appeared. My own voice. Recorded 5 years ago. I don't trust anyone anymore. I froze. Because I remembered those words. I remembered that night. But then another voice appeared. Victoria's. I understand. The recording continued. Me. If I leave, the company will collapse. Victoria. No, a pause. Then, if you stay, you will. I stopped breathing. Because hearing it again was different. The recording made it sound like Victoria was pushing me away, like she wanted me gone. The clip ended. Michael looked at us. This is spreading everywhere. I looked at Victoria. Did you say that? She nodded. Yes. My expression changed. Then explain. She looked at me. I told you to leave because I wanted you alive. That doesn't sound like it. I know. Everyone will hear this and think you betrayed me. I know. I looked at the screen. Someone had carefully edited the story. They weren't just attacking me. They were rewriting history, making Victoria look like the villain, making me look like a victim, making Jonathan look like the person saving the company. I looked at Michael. Where did this come from? We traced the upload. Who? Michael hesitated. Then, Kevin Moore. I froze. The Phoenix engineer? Michael nodded. Yes. Victoria looked shocked. Kevin? I immediately understood. The person who stole Phoenix. The person who knew our history. The person who could access the old files. Kevin. I grabbed my jacket. I'm going to find him. Victoria stood. I'm coming. I looked at her. No, her expression changed. Ethan, this time. I need to do this alone. The words hurt both of us. I saw it. But I needed answers. Not another secret. Not another person protecting me by hiding the truth. I walked toward the door. Then she said, Ethan. I stopped. Her voice was quiet. If you find out I made the wrong choice 5 years ago. I turned. She looked at me. Will you hate me? I stared at her. The honest answer was complicated. Because I was angry. I was hurt. But hate? No, I couldn't hate her. Not after everything. I said. I don't know. Then I left. And For the first time since Victoria entered my life, I walked away from her. I found Kevin Moore 3 hours later. Not because he wanted to be found, because people who believed they had already won always made the same mistake. They stopped hiding. Kevin had left Apex Horizon immediately after the leak. He didn't go home. He didn't go to another company. He went to the one place where he thought nobody would look. The old Phoenix Research Facility, the place where everything started, the place where 5 years ago I walked away. When I entered the building, Kevin was already waiting. That told me everything. He knew I was coming. You took longer than I expected. His voice was calm. I stopped several feet away. You knew I would find you. Kevin smiled. Of course. Why? Because you're Ethan Walker. I looked at him. You used to respect me. I still do. No, I shook my head. If you respected me, you wouldn't have stolen my work. Kevin laughed. Your work? There it was. The first sign. Not guilt. Resentment. I spent 4 years building Phoenix. So did I. With my ideas. With my team. With my time. I stared at him. And that means you can steal it. His expression became colder. You don't understand. Then explain. Kevin walked closer. For 5 years. Everyone forgot us. Everyone remembered you. You became the legendary founder who walked away. But what about the people who stayed? I frowned. What are you talking about? We built this company. No, I looked at him. We built the technology. There's a difference. Kevin laughed. That's your problem. What? You always believed ideas mattered more than people. I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're blaming me. Yes. Because I left? Because you abandoned us. I stared at him. 5 years. All this time. This was what he believed, that I betrayed him, that I chose myself. I shook my head. You could have talked to me. Would you have listened? I didn't answer, because maybe that was the part one didn't want to admit. Back then, I was angry. I saw corruption everywhere. I trusted almost nobody. Kevin continued. You left. Victoria stayed. Jonathan offered us resources. And slowly, he smiled. We realized something. What? Phoenix was too valuable to belong to one person. I looked at him. Yes. Oh, you sold it. No, then what? We partnered. With Novatech? Yes. I stepped closer. Oh, you know what you did. Kevin looked at me. I saved Phoenix. No, I shook my head. You sold the one thing that made us different. He didn't respond, because somewhere inside, he knew. But then he said something that caught me off guard. You still don't understand. What? Novatech didn't steal Phoenix. I frowned. What are you talking about? Kevin smiled. They only received what we gave them. The word we bothered me. Who else? Kevin didn't answer. I already knew. There was someone else, someone above him, someone who controlled everything. Jonathan. Kevin looked away. That was enough. I felt my anger rise. So this was all planned. Yes. 5 years ago. Yes. Even before I left? He nodded. I stared at him. Why? Kevin sighed. Because Jonathan knew you would never give him control. And Victoria? His expression changed. Victoria was supposed to be part of the plan. My eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Kevin didn't answer. I stepped closer. What does that mean? Finally, he said, she was supposed to convince you to leave. My hands tightened. I know. Kevin looked surprised. You know? She told me. His expression changed. She told you? Yes. Kevin laughed softly. Then she still doesn't know everything. My heart sank. What else? Kevin looked at me. Victoria didn't just convince you to leave. She changed the project. I froze. What? Before you left. She accessed the Phoenix files. I stared. Impossible. Kevin shook his head. She removed something. What? The original source code. I didn't move. Because if that was true, everything changed. What are you saying? I'm saying the Phoenix you remember. He paused. That wasn't complete. I felt my mind go blank. 5 years. I believed I protected the original project. I believed Victoria protected it. But what if something had been changed? Why? I asked. Why would she do that? Kevin looked at me. Because she didn't trust you. I immediately rejected it. No, then ask her. I looked at him. You expect me to believe you? Kevin smiled. No, he pointed at the table. That's why I left something for you. I looked at a small drive. I picked it up. What is this? The original Phoenix backup. I froze. The real one. I looked at him. Why give it to me? Kevin's expression changed. Because Jonathan betrayed me too. That surprised me. What? He promised me a position. He promised me recognition. He promised me I would be the person remembered. For Phoenix. A bitter smile appeared. But after Novatech got the technology, I became useless. I understood. Kevin wasn't loyal. He was angry. Two very different things. I took the drive. One more question. He looked at me. Who modified the files? Kevin stayed silent. Kevin, finally. He answered that I don't know that you're lying, that I'm not. He looked serious. But I know who can tell you. Who? His answer made me freeze. The person who created the original encryption. I waited. Kevin said, Victoria Sterling. I closed my eyes. Again. Victoria. Everything kept leading back to her. When I left the building, it was already dark. My phone had 23 missed calls. All from Victoria. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her, because I didn't know what to say. I returned to my apartment. I connected the drive. The files opened. And within minutes, I realized Kevin was telling the truth. The original Phoenix was different. The encryption, the structure, the core system, everything. Someone had changed it. Then I found the hidden folder. A folder created 5 years ago. The title was, For Ethan Only. My hand stopped. Nobody else could have created that. I opened it. Inside was one file. A video. I pressed play. Victoria appeared on the screen. 5 years younger. Before she became CEO. Before everything changed. She looked tired, but determined. Then she spoke to Ethan. My heart tightened. If you're watching this, she paused. Then I failed. I stared at the screen. She continued, I wanted to tell you the truth. But I couldn't. A tear appeared in her eyes. Your father? No. She stopped, then corrected herself. Jonathan. Sterling threatened you. He threatened the company. He threatened everyone who believed in Phoenix. She took a breath. But the biggest secret is, she looked directly into the camera. I changed the Phoenix files. I froze. She continued, but not to steal them, not to betray you. I changed them because the original version had one fatal weakness. I stared. What weakness? The video continued. If Jonathan got control of Phoenix, he wouldn't just control a company, he would control something much more dangerous. The screen flickered. Then Victoria said the words that changed everything. The original Phoenix was never just artificial intelligence. It was designed to control global infrastructure. I froze. The video ended. I sat there for several minutes. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Jonathan didn't want Apex Horizon. He didn't want money. He wanted Phoenix. Because Phoenix wasn't a business project. It was something that could change the world. And Victoria had known all along. The woman I thought betrayed me was the woman who had been protecting everyone from something much bigger. Then my phone rang. This time, I answered. It was Victoria. Her voice was quiet. Ethan. I didn't speak. She continued. I know you found the video. My expression changed. How? A pause. Then, because I was the one who sent it. I froze. Why now? Her voice broke slightly. Because tomorrow, Jonathan is launching the complete version of Phoenix. Silence. Then she said, and if we don't stop him, he will control the most powerful technology ever created. I looked at the screen. The woman who had hidden the truth from me. The woman who had hurt me. The woman who had protected me. And I finally understood. This was never a battle for Apex Horizon. It was a battle for everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry. Not because I was afraid. Because everything I believed about the past 5 years had changed. 5 years ago. I thought I lost. I thought I failed to protect my company. I thought someone I trusted betrayed me. I thought leaving Apex Horizon was the end of my story. I was wrong. It was never the end. It was the beginning of a war I didn't even know existed. 6 a.m. I arrived at Apex Horizon for the first time in days. I didn't avoid Victoria. She was already there, standing outside the conference room, waiting. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She didn't pretend everything was fine. She simply said, You came. I nodded. Yes. A long silence followed. Then she said, I didn't know if you would. I looked at her. I didn't know either. That was the truth. Because trust wasn't something that returned overnight. Even when you understood someone's reasons, even when you knew their actions came from a good place, the damage was still real. Victoria looked down. I know you're still angry. I am. She nodded. I deserve that. That answer surprised me. The old Victoria would have defended herself, explained, argued. But now she didn't. She accepted it. And somehow that made it harder to stay angry. I looked at her. Why didn't you tell me the truth? She answered immediately. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of losing you. I didn't speak. She continued. 5 years ago. You were willing to destroy yourself to protect Phoenix. You were willing to fight Jonathan even though you had no chance. I knew you. You would have stayed. You would have fought. And you would have lost everything. I looked away. Because she was right. Victoria stepped closer. I made the wrong choice. I looked at her. What? I protected you. But I hurt you. She swallowed. And I spent 5 years regretting that. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, Jonathan is launching Phoenix today. Her expression became serious. Yes. How much control does he have? Enough. Meaning, he has the technology, but not the original security system. I nodded. The encryption. Yes. I looked at her. You changed it. She nodded. I created a lock. Only you can unlock it. Yes. I understood. Jonathan had a copy. But not the real thing. He had the body, not the brain. Victoria continued. But he found another way. How? He is using the stolen Phoenix version from Novatech. I frowned. That version isn't complete. No, but it's enough to create damage. I understood. Jonathan didn't need perfect control. He needed chaos. A system that malfunctioned. A technology everyone feared. Then he could step in as the person who saved the world. Classic power strategy. Create the problem. Sell yourself as the solution. I looked at Victoria. Where is he launching it? She answered. At the Sterling Global Technology Summit. I checked the time. Today? She nodded. 3 hours. I smiled. Then we have 3 hours. Victoria looked at me. To do what? I opened my laptop. Destroy his plan. Michael entered the room. He looked surprised seeing both of us together. Are you two okay? Victoria answered. We're working. Michael nodded. Good. Then he placed a file on the table. Because we have a bigger problem. I opened it. The documents showed dozens of companies preparing partnerships with Jonathan. I frowned. How many? 36. And investors? 7 major funds. I looked at Victoria. He's already selling the technology. She nodded. He wants everyone committed before anyone discovers the truth. I understood. Once contracts were signed. Even if Phoenix failed, Jonathan would be protected. Too many companies would have too much money invested. Nobody would dare stop him. I looked at Michael. What do we have? Evidence. Not enough? Michael frowned. What do you mean? Evidence proves he stole Phoenix. I looked at Victoria, but it doesn't prove why he wanted it. Victoria understood that we need to reveal the real purpose. I nodded. Exactly. Michael looked confused. What real purpose? I looked at him. Phoenix isn't an AI system. It's a global infrastructure control system. His expression changed. What? Victoria explained. The original project was designed to optimize energy, transportation, and emergency systems with enough access. It could control critical networks. Michael became pale. That means, yes. I answered. Someone controlling Phoenix could control entire cities. Silence. Now Michael understood. This wasn't corporate competition. This was dangerous. I looked at Victoria. Can we stop the launch? She shook her head. Not directly. Why? Because Jonathan moved the system to an independent network. Meaning? He prepared for us. I smiled. Good. Victoria looked at me. Good? People who prepare for everything usually believe they can't lose. And that's when they make mistakes. I opened Project Sentinel. I don't need to stop his launch. I need him to reveal himself. Victoria looked at the screen. What are you planning? I smiled. The same thing he did to us. What? Let him tell the world the truth. Michael looked confused. How? I turned the laptop around. Project Sentinel doesn't just track stolen technology. IT can expose hidden commands. Victoria's eyes widened. Ethan? Yes, if Jonathan activates Phoenix. I nodded. We can prove exactly what he is trying to do. The plan was simple, dangerous, but simple. Let Jonathan start. Let him connect Phoenix. Then expose the hidden control system. The world would see his real goal. 9:30 a.m. We arrived at the technology summit. Jonathan was already on stage. Thousands of people watched online. Investors, government representatives, technology leaders, everyone. Jonathan smiled confidently. Today, we introduce a new era. I watched from backstage. Victoria stood beside me. The same woman everyone thought was my weakness. The same woman Jonathan underestimated. Jonathan continued. Phoenix will transform the future. I looked at Victoria. Ready? She nodded. Ready. The presentation began. The system activated. Numbers appeared. The audience applauded. Jonathan smiled that he thought he won. Then I connected Project Sentinel. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Victoria looked at me. Ethan? I watched the data, waiting. Then suddenly, the system changed. A hidden command appeared. My expression became cold. Because I finally saw Jonathan's real plan. And it was worse than we imagined. He wasn't trying to control Phoenix. He was trying to remove everyone else from controlling it. Including himself, he created a system where Phoenix would become impossible to stop. That a self-evolving AI with unrestricted access. That I looked at Victoria. He's not launching Phoenix. She frowned. What is he doing? I closed my laptop. He's releasing something that even he can't control. And at that moment, the entire world was about to discover Jonathan Sterling's biggest mistake. 10 seconds. The entire auditorium was watching the screen. Jonathan Sterling stood on the stage with the confidence of a man who believed history was about to remember his name. He thought he was creating the future. He had no idea he was about to expose himself. 9 seconds. Victoria looked at me. Ethan. I nodded. I know. Can you stop it? I looked at the data. The answer was complicated. Not yet. Her expression changed. Not yet. Because if I force a shutdown now, everyone will think Phoenix failed. I pointed at the hidden commands. But if we let it activate, I looked at the stage. Jonathan will reveal everything himself. Victoria understood immediately. You want the world to see his intention. Exactly. Michael looked worried. Are you sure? No, that surprised him. I continued. But I know one thing. What? People like Jonathan don't believe they are doing wrong. They believe they are the only ones capable of making the right decision. I watched Jonathan. And that is always their weakness. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. The screen changed. Phoenix officially launched. The audience applauded. Jonathan smiled. Today marks the beginning of a new era. For 30 seconds. Everything looked perfect. The system responded. The demonstrations worked. The investors looked impressed. Then Project Sentinel detected the first hidden command. I looked at the screen. There it was. The evidence. The command structure. The restrictions Jonathan removed. The control system he secretly built. I connected the information to the public broadcast. Nobody noticed at first. Then the main screen changed. Instead of Phoenix's presentation, a new file appeared. System access log. The audience became confused. Jonathan stopped speaking. What is this? The technical team rushed toward the controls, but it was already too late. The entire world was watching. The screen displayed every hidden instruction, every unauthorized access, every backdoor, every decision Jonathan planned to make. The room exploded. Investors started standing. Government representatives started asking questions. Journalists immediately started recording. Jonathan looked at the screen. Then he looked backstage. His eyes found me. For the first time, he looked afraid. He walked toward me. Ethan. His voice was low. What did you do? I looked at him. I showed everyone what you built. His expression hardened. You don't understand what you're doing. No, I shook my head. I understand exactly. You created a system that no one could control. Jonathan laughed. Someone has to control it. Who? He didn't answer. I stepped closer. You? Silence. I continued. You believe you're different. You believe because you built an empire. You have the right to decide everything. His expression changed. You think I'm the villain? I think you forgot one thing. What? Technology doesn't belong to the person who owns IT. IT belongs to the people affected by it. The room became silent because everyone heard. Jonathan looked at Victoria. You chose him. Victoria stepped forward. Yes. Her answer was immediate. Jonathan stared. You chose him over your family? She looked at him. Noah paused. I chose myself. That was the first time I saw Victoria completely free. Not the CEO, not the daughter of Jonathan Sterling. Just Victoria. Jonathan looked shocked. You have no idea what you're giving up. She smiled. I already gave up enough. The security team arrived. The board members, the legal representatives, everyone who had spent weeks trying to decide our future was now deciding Jonathan's. But Jonathan wasn't finished. People like him never accepted defeat easily. He looked at me. You think this ends here? I didn't answer. He smiled. You still don't know the whole story. Victoria's expression changed. What are you talking about? Jonathan looked at her. You really think you protected him? Silence. I frowned. What does that mean? Jonathan laughed. Ask her. Again, the same tactic, the same words. Everyone wanted me to doubt Victoria, but this time, I didn't react immediately. Because I finally understood something. Jonathan's strongest weapon wasn't money. IT wasn't power. IT was distrust. He wanted everyone separated. He wanted everyone questioning each other. I looked at Victoria. Is there something else? She was silent. Then, yes. My heart sank. But this time, I didn't walk away. I waited. Victoria looked at me. 5 years ago. She took a breath. I didn't just change Phoenix. What else? I changed your departure. I frowned. What? She continued. When you left Apex Horizon, you thought it was your decision. I stared at her. What are you saying? She looked down. It wasn't. The room seemed to disappear. Victoria, I made sure you would leave. I couldn't speak. Not because I was angry, because I didn't understand. Why? She looked at me. Because you were going to die. I froze. What? Jonathan wasn't the only threat. There was another person, someone inside the company. I stared. Who? She shook her head. I never found out. Then why force me to leave? Because I discovered someone had arranged an accident that would happen after you refused. Jonathan. I went silent. Victoria continued. I changed the Phoenix files. I created the fake transfer. I pushed you away. Because if you stayed, she looked at me. You wouldn't survive. For 5 years. I believed Victoria abandoned me. But the truth was, she sacrificed the one thing she wanted most, me. Because she thought losing me was better than burying me. I looked at her. You should have told me. I know. Why didn't you trust me? Her eyes became emotional. Because I knew you. I frowned. What? You would have chosen to fight. She smiled sadly. And I couldn't lose you. For a moment. Nobody spoke. Then Michael suddenly interrupted. Ethan. I turned. His expression was serious. We found something. What? He handed me a file. The person who arranged the accident. I opened it. My hand stopped. Because the name on the document was impossible. Not Jonathan. Not Kevin. Not anyone from Sterling Holdings. It was someone from my own past. Someone I thought had disappeared years ago. Someone who had a reason to hate me. The document showed Daniel Walker. My older brother. I stared at the name. Impossible. My brother had died 7 years ago. At least. That was what everyone told me. Victoria looked at the document. Ethan. I couldn't move. Because suddenly I understood. Jonathan Sterling wasn't the beginning of this story. He was only one player. The real enemy had been hiding long before Apex Horizon existed. And now, my dead brother had returned from the past. The name on the document stayed on the screen. Daniel Walker. My brother. My dead brother. For several seconds. I couldn't move, because there were some names in life that belonged to the past. Names you buried. Names you accepted you would never hear again. Daniel was one of them. 7 years ago. My family received the news. A car accident. No survivors. A closed case. A funeral. A goodbye. I spent years forcing myself to accept it. And now, after everything, after Jonathan, after Phoenix, after 5 years of secrets, his name appeared again, alive. Connected to the biggest conspiracy I had ever faced. Victoria looked at me. Ethan. I didn't answer. Michael looked confused. Are you sure this is the same Daniel Walker? I grabbed the file. Where did you get this? Michael replied. From the original accident investigation records. Original? He nodded. Someone recently unlocked restricted files. I looked at Victoria. Who? She shook her head. I don't. No. I looked back at the document. The signature, the authorization, the evidence. Everything pointed to one impossible truth. Daniel was alive. But if he was alive, who died 7 years ago, and why did everyone let me believe it? I closed the file. I need answers. Victoria stepped closer. Ethan. I looked at her. I know. Her expression was serious. You don't have to do this alone. For a moment, I wanted to believe that. 5 years ago, I would have pushed everyone away. I would have tried to solve everything myself. But I had learned something. The people around you could either be your weakness or your strength. I nodded. Find everything about Daniel. Michael immediately started working. Victoria stayed. She didn't leave. That mattered, because even after everything, she was still here. An hour later, Michael returned. His face was different. Not worried. Shocked. I found him. I stood. Where? Michael placed another file on the table. Daniel Walker is alive. I already knew. But hearing it still felt impossible. Where is he? Michael looked at Victoria. Then at me. He's the CEO of a private technology company. I frowned. Which company? Michael answered. Vertex Solutions. The room went silent. The same company connected to the stolen Phoenix technology. The same company behind Novatech. My brother, the person who supposedly died 7 years ago, was the person who started the chain of events. I laughed quietly. Not because it was funny, because the situation was almost impossible to believe. My own brother. Victoria looked at me. Ethan. He was alive all this time. She didn't say anything, because there was nothing to say. I looked at Michael. Set up a meeting. Victoria immediately responded. No. I looked at her. No. Not yet. Why? Because we don't know what he wants. I understood her concern, but I needed answers. I need to See him. Victoria looked at me. Then I come with you. I wanted to refuse. Old habits, old pain. But I didn't. Okay. 2 hours later. I met Daniel. The moment I saw him, everything stopped. He looked older, different, but I knew him. Because some people could change their face, their clothes, their identity, but not their eyes. Ethan. Hearing my name from him was the strangest feeling I had ever experienced. That I didn't sit, that I didn't greet him. I just stared. You're alive. Daniel smiled sadly. Yes. Why? A simple question. But it carried 7 years of pain. He looked down. Because I had to disappear. I laughed. You had to disappear? I stepped closer. You let everyone think you were dead. I let you mourn. I let our family bury an empty coffin. His expression changed. I noted him. My voice became colder. You don't know. You weren't there. You didn't see what happened. You didn't hear Mom crying. You didn't see Dad lose himself. Daniel closed his eyes. I know. Then why? Silence, finally. He answered, because someone was trying to kill us. I froze. What? Daniel looked at me. The accident wasn't meant for me. It was meant for you. I didn't speak. He continued. You were supposed to be in that CAR.my expression changed. What? 7 years ago. Someone found out about Phoenix. I frowned. Phoenix didn't exist yet. Daniel shook his head. You don't understand. Phoenix wasn't created 7 years ago. It started much earlier. I stared. What are you talking about? Daniel looked at Victoria, then back at me. Your father. I froze. My father? Yes. I didn't understand. My father had research. What research? Advanced neural computing. The foundation of Phoenix. I shook my head. No, because that couldn't be true. My father was a professor. A researcher, not someone involved in billion-dollar technology. Daniel continued. He discovered something dangerous. What? A way to create systems that could predict human decisions. I went silent. That sounded impossible. But then I remembered Phoenix, the real Phoenix. The system designed to optimize global infrastructure. The technology that Jonathan wanted. Daniel continued. Your father refused to sell it. Someone wanted it. Someone powerful. Someone who would do anything. I looked at him. Jonathan? Daniel shook his head. Know that. Surprised me. Then who? Daniel looked directly at me. The person who created Jonathan's empire. I waited. Daniel said. The person who funded Sterling Holdings. My expression changed. Who? Daniel answered. Richard Coleman. The chairman. The man who had been sitting silently in every board meeting. The man who appeared neutral. The man who always seemed reasonable. My blood went cold. Daniel continued. Jonathan was never the mastermind. He was just ambitious. Richard was different. He didn't want money. He wanted control. I looked at Victoria. She looked shocked, because even she didn't know this. Daniel continued. 5 years ago, when you created Phoenix at Apex Horizon, Richard realized the technology was close to completion. He needed you removed as, he used Jonathan. I asked. Why didn't you tell me? Daniel looked away. Because I tried. What? I tried to warn you. 7 years ago, but I failed. I frowned. Failed? He nodded. The accident happened because I discovered the plan. I tried to get you away, but they found out. My mind was racing. Too many secrets. Too many lies. Too many years stolen. I looked at him. Why come back now? Daniel was silent. Then he said, because Richard is about to activate the real Phoenix. I froze. What? Daniel nodded. The version Jonathan launched today was a distraction. He wanted everyone looking at him. But the real system, he looked at me, was hidden years ago. Victoria immediately understood. Where? Daniel answered. Under Apex Horizon. The room became silent. I felt something change. The entire battle, everything we fought, everything we believed, was wrong. Phoenix wasn't stolen. Phoenix wasn't sold. Phoenix was hidden, waiting for someone, and suddenly I understood. My father's research. My brother's disappearance. Victoria's secrets. Jonathan's obsession. Everything connected to one thing. The original Phoenix. I looked at Daniel. Who can activate it? He looked at me. You already know. I froze. No. Daniel nodded. Yes. The system was designed with one final key. A person. I waited. Daniel said. Your family. I didn't speak. Because I knew what that meant. My father created it. My brother protected it. And now, the only person who could stop it was me. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A familiar voice came through. Richard Coleman. Ethan Walker. My expression changed. Richard laughed. I was wondering how long it would take you to find the truth. I didn't respond. He continued. You've always been intelligent, but you were always too emotional. I looked at Daniel. Where's Phoenix? Richard laughed. Tomorrow. What? Tomorrow. The world will see the true power of Phoenix. I tightened my grip. You won't control it. Richard replied calmly. No, a pause. Because you will. The call ended. I stared at the phone. Victoria looked at me. What did he say? I answered. Richard doesn't want to control Phoenix. He wants me to activate it. Everyone became silent, because we finally understood. The final battle wasn't about stopping someone else from using Phoenix. It was about deciding whether humanity was ready for the thing my family created. And tomorrow, I would have to make the biggest decision of my life. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid of Richard Coleman. Not because I was afraid of Phoenix. I was afraid of something else. The responsibility. For years, I thought my biggest mistake was leaving Apex Horizon. I thought I abandoned the company. I thought I ran away from my problems. But now I understood. Everything that happened was connected to one decision. Whether Phoenix would be used to help people or control them. At 5:30 a.m. I returned to Apex Horizon. The building was already surrounded by security. Not company security, government security. Everyone knew something serious was happening. Victoria was waiting for me. She looked exhausted, but determined. You found the answer. I nodded. Yes. She looked at me. And I didn't answer immediately, because the answer was complicated. Phoenix is beneath Apex Horizon. She froze. What? My father hid the original system. Richard knows. Victoria immediately understood. That's why he wanted you back. Yes, that he never wanted Jonathan to win. No, I looked at her. Jonathan was just a distraction. She became quiet for the first time. I saw fear in her eyes. Not fear for herself. Fear for everyone. Ethan. I looked at her. If Phoenix is really what you say. She stopped. I know. Because we both understood. Powerful technology was never dangerous by itself. People were dangerous. The person controlling it decided everything. Michael entered. We found the access point. I turned. Where? He pointed at the underground facility map. Below the original research center. Victoria looked surprised. That area was sealed 5 years ago. I nodded. Because my father wanted it hidden. Michael looked at me. Can you open it? I looked at the system. I don't know. Daniel appeared behind him. Yes. You can. I turned. My brother. The man I thought was dead. The man who carried 7 years of secrets. You knew? He nodded. Your father created Phoenix with one final security. What security? Daniel looked at me. You. I frowned. What does that mean? He believed technology should never belong to a company, not to a government, not to a billionaire. He believed it should belong to someone who understood the responsibility. I almost laughed. That sounds like him. My father always said the same thing. Knowledge was never power. Responsibility was power. Daniel continued. He created a system that only responds to family authorization. Only someone with his bloodline can access the core. I looked at him. And you? I can open the first layer, but you must make the final decision. I understood. Daniel protected the door, but I held the key. We entered the underground facility. For years, I thought I knew everything about Apex Horizon. I was wrong. There was an entire world beneath the company. A world built before the company became famous, before investors, before billion-dollar contracts, before power changed everyone. The center was the original Phoenix system, not a product, not a machine. A legacy. I walked toward the control panel. The system recognized me. A message appeared. Welcome back. Ethan Walker. Victoria stood behind me. I can't believe this. I looked at her. Neither can I. Then another message appeared. Final authorization required. User decision. Activate or terminate. Everyone became silent. Point 2 choices. Activate. Terminate. The easiest decision would have been termination. Destroy it. Remove the danger. No one could misuse it. But was that right? Phoenix could solve problems. Energy shortages. Medical research. Transportation systems. Disaster response. It could save millions. Destroying it. Because people were afraid. Was that responsible? Then I remembered Jonathan, Richard, all the people who wanted control, and I realized something. The answer wasn't destroying Phoenix. The answer was controlling who could use it. I turned. We don't terminate it. Victoria looked at me. Ethan, we change it. Daniel frowned. Change what? The foundation. I looked at the system. My father built Phoenix to trust one person. That's the mistake. I continued. No one person should have this much power. Victoria. Understood. You want to make it impossible for anyone to control alone. I nodded. Exactly. Michael looked surprised. Can you do that? I smiled that I created the original architecture that I can rebuild it for the next several hours. We worked, not as CEO, not as founder, not as enemies.asa team. Victoria handled legal protection, Michael handled security, Daniel helped with the original system, and I rebuilt Phoenix, changing the rules, removing personal authority, creating a global verification network that a system where no single person could control everything, including me. Then, at noon, Richard arrived that he didn't come alone, that he brought investors, executives, media, everyone that he believed he had won. When he entered the underground facility, he smiled. Ethan. I looked at him. Richard. He looked at the system. Beautiful. I said nothing. He continued. Your father was brilliant. He understood what the world needed. No, I interrupted. He understood what the world feared. Richard smiled. You sound just like him. That's because he was right. Richard looked at Victoria. You disappointed me. She looked at him. I never worked for you. He laughed. Everyone works for someone. I shook my head. No, I looked at Phoenix. That's what you never understood. What? Some people build things because they want power. Others build things because they want to change the world. Richard's expression became cold. You think you're different? No, I looked at him. I know I'm responsible. Richard stepped forward. Activate Phoenix. Everyone waited. I looked at the system. Then at him. No, his smile disappeared. What? I already activated it. His face changed. What did you do? I smiled. I removed your control. The screen changed. System reconfigured. All private access terminated. Richard froze. No, I continued. Phoenix no longer belongs to anyone. You lost. For the first time? Richard Coleman looked powerless. Security moved forward. The evidence was already released. The world now knew everything. Jonathan's theft. Richard's plan. The hidden conspiracy. Everything. The empire they built collapsed in one day. But there was still one thing left. Victoria. After everything ended, we stood outside Apex Horizon. No cameras, no investors, no enemies. Just us. She looked at me. So? After all this, she smiled slightly. Oh, you still think I'm a terrible person? I looked at her. No. Do you forgive me? I was silent. Then I answered. I never stopped caring about you. Her eyes changed. But trust? I nodded. Trust has to be rebuilt. She smiled. I can do that. I looked at her. Point one condition. What? No more secrets. She laughed softly. That might be difficult. Victoria. She smiled. I'm joking. For the first time in years, everything felt normal. Not perfect. Normal. A few weeks later, Apex Horizon announced a new direction. More hidden projects. More private control. Phoenix became an open international technology platform under strict supervision. The company changed, and so did we. Victoria and I never became a perfect couple overnight. Real relationships didn't work that way. We argued, we disagreed, we challenged each other. But we talked, we trusted. And that was something we never had before. Point one morning, Victoria handed me a document. I looked at it, then laughed. Seriously? She raised an eyebrow. What? The last time you gave me a document. I thought it was a termination letter. She smiled. And now? I opened it. This time. It wasn't a termination. It wasn't a business contract. It was a letter. A simple letter. The first sentence said, 5 years ago, I lost the person I loved because I was afraid. I looked at her. She said, this time, I don't want fear to decide anything. I closed the letter. Victoria? Yes? I smiled. You know, this is a much better surprise than firing me. She laughed. The Ice Queen CEO laughed. Something I never thought I would see. And that was when I finally understood. The document that changed my life wasn't the one that made me a founder again. It wasn't the one that exposed $1 billion conspiracy. It wasn't even the one that saved Phoenix. It was the first document she ever gave me. The one I thought was a termination notice. But it was actually something else. A confession. A promise. A love letter. And after everything we survived, I finally signed it. Not with my name, not with my title, but with my heart.